Today is Wednesday, November 16th, and this is the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Can I have a motion to open the meeting? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we are going to move into executive session. The Hendrick Hudson School District Board of Education will convene for the purpose of collective negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I have a motion to enter exec? Second? Jen, all in favor? Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Tonight is Wednesday, November 16th, and the board has, well, we returned from executive session, and then we had our celebration of tenure, and now we're ready to begin our meeting. So let's all stand for the pledge before we get started.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated? Second? All in favor? All right, Carmen, this evening, we do not have anybody signed up, is that right, for the non-agenda items? Correct. Okay, so there's no audience comments on non-agenda items. And we can move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything to pull from the consent agenda? Jen?
I'd like to pull fiscal 5.4.
Okay, so we pull that, but we're going to vote to approve the consent agenda. Have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a second? All in favor? All right, so first we will move to fiscal. First my numbers 5.4.
So just wanted to make sure we were going to bring this up in new business, but on the docket is the approval for Siemens Comprehensive Energy Audit, which is to perform our EPC audit. So we had previously agreed to work with Day Automation, but due to contract agreements, they had decided to move away. So we did not proceed with them. So we re-interviewed Siemens and we're moving forward with them as far as doing the audit. This is a no cost to the district. The facilities group met with them and we gave them the go ahead to proceed with the audit. And once they come back to us, then we can talk about if we'll move forward and actually complete the work. So this will return again. I just want to make sure everyone understood.
Helpful, yeah.
Thanks.
With the change in vendors, how far out, like, does that delay the process, do you know?
We think that about 3 months.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion to approve fiscal 5.4? Second? All in favor? Okay. All right, we have one more item removed, that's donations. All right, so from the Notrika family, thank you, Corey and family. A Sony 70-inch LCD HD television, a Vantage Point XL TV wall mount bracket, and a Yamaha RX V867 AV amplifier receiver, all valued at $2,232. That's from the Notrika family. Can I have a motion to approve the donation? Can I have a second? All in favor?
I abstain.
Awesome. All right, so next is our superintendent's report.
Yes, we're going to invite our principals up to give a overview of the first quarter of the school year. We officially passed our first 10 weeks and grades are coming out soon. I taught the middle school and high school. We've had parent teacher conferences. So our school year is well underway. We asked the principals to design a very brief sort of conversational update for the board and the community. Three initiatives going well, 2 priorities they wish to tackle in the next 10 weeks, and 1 pleasant surprise that they didn't expect. And I know there are some particular interests of the board that they will be prepared to touch on. So why don't we start with Anthony Giovinazzi from the Hendrick Hudson High School, and give an update, his perspective on the first 10 minutes of school, first quarter.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak. I can't believe the first quarter of the school year has already gone by. It's really flying. There are a lot of great things happening here at the high school. I think one thing that we're really proud of is some of the opportunities we've been able to give our students. We had a nice homecoming dance. We had our first ever club fair. We were able to bring back the Pumpkin Pops concert and the Halloween Haunts. At the end of the month, we do have our career fair, which we're looking forward to. I've met with the student government. They want more guest speakers. They want town halls. They want assemblies. We had a very nice assembly today for the 9th grade that one of our E&L teachers brought to the school with collaboration from the English department. So as far as student involvement, we're really trying to engage the students in outside activities outside the classroom. Another thing I think that's going very well is we've kind of reorganized and revamped our professional development opportunities during faculty meetings. Not only do we have our outside consultants like Meteor, I've been using faculty meeting time to have our teachers serve as leaders and facilitators in professional development. So I give a brief agenda, and then we go into breakout sessions of topics and areas that have been identified by teachers as areas that they would like to learn more in. So I'm pretty proud of the way our teachers are taking a leadership role in that. Our instructional cabinet or leadership team meets monthly. I'm doing a book talk with our teachers, our leaders, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I introduced that to them yesterday. But we've had some great conversations about leadership and what we'd like to do as far as professional development and instruction. The third thing is our response to intervention and multi-tiered system of support systems are pretty strong. We've been able to work with the clinical team, the guidance counselor, the social workers. They meet every Wednesday morning with administration to discuss students, social emotional needs. We have an academic team, the response intervention and PSS team that really designs specific interventions and strategies for teachers to utilize in classrooms. We have a learning lab with Ms. LaFemina. She gets referrals from our guidance department. She works with kids on organizational, executive functioning skills, advocating for them, and bringing them to teachers, and really just kind of, help inspire, help motivate, and keep kids on task. Moving forward, I'd really like in the next 10 weeks to look at the reviews of our learning centers, because we do have learning centers here in the high school that are academic supports. We have one in every academic area: math, science, social studies, English. I want to develop more and better communication and collaboration between the learning center teacher and the general teacher, because a lot of times it's not the same teacher. It could be 2 different teachers. So yesterday, actually, at our cabinet meeting, we came up with a nice form, and we're going to do a content specific so that there's collaboration between the teachers in each department. Kids can go to those learning centers. They can refer themselves. A teacher can refer them. A guidance counselor can refer them. A parent can refer them. It's a support that we have for students in each academic area. But I really want to make that system and that class more beneficial to meet the kids' needs. The other thing I would really like to work on is we do have a space in the basement of the building. There's an engineering room in room 10. There's a space that was designated as a project lead the way space for biomedical sciences classes. Right now it's like a storage area, but I know there had been some plans to get that up and running as another learning lab for the project lead the way program. So I really want to focus on making that accessible and usable. As far as pleasant surprises, I mean, the kids here are tremendous. Sitting in the principal chair for a number of years and moving to the principal's side, you really get to see some of the great things that go on here at Hendrick Hudson High School and how great the kids are and how great the programs are. So I feel very lucky that I get to work in the capacity I'm working. So that's a real brief overview of the first quarter of the school year.
Thank you. That was awesome. Do any of the trustees have questions for Mr. Giovinazzi?
Hi, room 10, are any of the engineering teachers currently using
Yes,
room 10?
they do. The engineering teachers do use room 10.
They do?
Yeah.
So on the master schedule, that's their room 10?
Yes, we have teachers that teach up in the science area for their regular science classes and their engineering classes. They're in that room downstairs. Yes.
And the learning lab sounds I'm a high school teacher, so it just sounds phenomenal. Who is responsible for creating that program? I just,
That's something I had developed over the last couple of years through administration, and we've been really trying to refine it and come up with better processes and better systems to identify kids and give the support to kids that they need. So we've tried to streamline it this year, that referrals to that program come through guidance. But it's not really mistaken as like a learning center, like an academic teacher would be there providing the academic support. It's more executive functioning, organizational skills. Let's take a look at who your teachers are. Let's reach out to your teachers. Do you have a project due? Is the homework due? You want to come in and have me just check a few things? So that's how that program is used.
yeah, I was just wondering if
Yeah.
it could trickle down to the middle school. Sorry.
It's a work in progress, but it's very effective and it really has helped a lot of kids. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Lauren Scollins, our principal at Blue Mountain Middle School. Not only did we finish our first 10 weeks at school, but she did as well as principal here. Although she did get her feet wet late last spring, but Lauren, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel right at home, that's for sure. It's been an exciting kickoff to the school year. In my transition in bringing kids and really feeling like we're back to pre-COVID world of being in school and the school experience. The Halloween dance, we've had, back to a lot of those things that we value at Blue Mountain. Some of the things that are going really well so far, our work with Meteor and our consultancy there, really looking at student engagement, and it's so aligned with the work we're rolling out with the strategic plan. So I'm excited that that work is being fostered already at the middle school. Our consultant most recently for math was in our math classes and really highlighting the student voice and choice and participation of our students in their engagement in the math classes. Last week we had social studies in, noting really the way that students were conversing with one another and challenging and asking questions. In that same vein, another thing that's really we're rolling out in year 2 is our science program and looking at what our science program is 6, 7, and 8 with changes coming down the pike in testing and assessment from the state, and really valuing our new science, the CPUP science program, which is a much more hands-on experience for our students. There isn't a day where you go into a science class and they haven't been physically active with some sort of science piece. I was in a class a couple weeks before they were, building a cooler and how could they keep the ice from melting based on all the things they had learned over the course of the unit. And then transitioning that over the last few years now in 8th grade as we have our living environment class, but also our science 8 class that is really in that hands-on vein. The last, initiative, the third thing that I'm so proud of and the things that we're working on in Blue Mountain is our communication and really looking at how can we share with the broader community what's going on at Blue Mountain. Things that are happening in our classrooms, getting everyone and our students to be able to come home and share is the end goal because we know middle schoolers aren't sharing as much as we want them to. So I will start that off with my communications and one day, hopefully soon, our students will come home and share all the amazing things that they're going to be learning about. A few things that I'm excited about over the next 10 weeks. Actually, the big one and all the other things fit inside is the work with us scheduling committee that I've convened of teachers and students. So we had our second meeting today and our teachers are really excited to be digging deeply into a lot of different areas of the school schedule. What do other middle schools do? What are our values and what are our priorities? And what is the student experience? I have a group of teachers who will be shadowing students in our school in the next few weeks, sitting side by side them throughout the day. What does it really feel like to be a 6th grader, a 7th grader, and an 8th grader in a variety of different programs from 7:45 in the morning until 2:35? And really understanding what it feels like to walk through the halls, to go to the lockers. And then reaching out to some local schools who have similar structured middle school with teams and the things that we're looking to do with student engagement and communication and critical thinking. And how can we use them as thought partners for some of the work that they're doing that they may have redone in their middle schools to help us. My principal's advisory committee has been meeting and that group of students really wants to look at what we could do to support our lunch and recess, not surprising, and how that they as a group can come together and problem solve some of the challenges that they see about lunch and recess and our cafeteria space to try to streamline that and use that as their problem solving and their sounding board. tried to get them to look at, things with content and pedagogy, but they really wanted them to do stuff. Similarly, working with that group of students, and the staff, really looking at what does it mean to be a Blue Mountain student? And what do we hope when students leave Blue Mountain? What do they leave us and go to the high school with? What are the qualities and characteristics that we want to make sure that every student walking out of Blue Mountain and over to the high school to Anthony has? And what can we safely say that we're all working together in that vein? So the students have been engaging in conversation about what they want from each other, and what they think they should have when they're getting ready to go to high school. Our teachers have been inputting that information, and most recently in my communication, I've asked parents to also weigh in on what those words and those attributes of that student are. It's been fun. The kids also want to do a parent one and a staff one, which some of those words were much more like silly, full of candy, fun. So we'll get to that part eventually, but for right now, focusing on the kids, and they've been really insightful, the students themselves thinking about words, respectful, empathetic, a listener of their friends, and similar words and attributes from the families and from our staff. I don't know that I go into work and don't have a pleasant surprise each day. Yes, there are things that are not so pleasant and things that I really want to think about. But every day I am reminded how much you change the world in a school. And I so am appreciative of the little things that happen in the middle school that make you smile. And it really is a magical place. And throughout my whole time in the interview process and in my transition, everyone keeps telling me that Blue Mountain is a special place. And it really is each and every single day. Looking at things that we want to continue to refine and change, there are many things that go into that school schedule. And there are many things that we're examining, from FBL programs to making sure that we have time for all of the initiatives and other things that we want to roll out. But all of that, each and every day, we know that we're making a difference in kids' lives. So that's where we are at the middle school.
Is there any questions from the board? You hear us giggling because there's quite a few middle school
Yeah,
parents
we're
here.
not sharing anything. We want to talk about it.
They're like locked vaults, yeah. And God bless everybody at Blue Mountain Middle School. Any questions, Erica?
I have a question just about how I think it's one of our questions about how you're dealing with learning loss for students. How does that fit into your day, for the kids right now?
It's so interesting. And I think that the way that the structure of the middle school inherently supports kids at all levels. So right now, 6th grade, and the start of the second quarter, we have our tiered instruction. So our 6th graders are broken up and receiving instruction at a level of the things that they need. We have a variety of assessment points and data points that we use to target different levels of students. And I think that because we have the team structure, it really makes a difference in supporting and helps support our kids, that we can see the whole child when they're in a room, and the teachers and I are sitting together and looking at all of their students and saying, who do we have? What are they at this level? How do they perform in your science class when it's really hands-on? And then when they get to math, what does that really look like? And I think all of those pieces come together to support those students. In the same vein that Anthony had mentioned, we do have our team meetings where we're looking at an MTSS program or an RTI program where we create targeted goals for specific students based on a need. And those identified needs, whether they're teacher identified, data identified, parent concern, whether it's a social emotional need or an academic need. And I think we're seeing both of those post-COVID. I think we do see universally kids are struggling with a lot of those student skills. And being in a classroom and interpersonal skills. And then that leads into all the other areas also.
I have one more question for you.
Yes.
About living environment. And this probably goes to Anthony as well. Are we confident that, I know we had to switch around, so now living environments only offered to the kids that kind of test into the program based on ELA and other criteria. We're one of the only schools in Westchester County, I think, that actually offers living environment in the 8th grade. I think most schools offer earth science. We're also one of the only schools in Westchester County that offers physics to 9th graders. So I just want to throw that out there. And I think it's great. But are we confident that now that we don't have every kid taking living environment, that we're going to be prepared when they come here to take that? Like, it's kind of sets off the science track a little bit at the high school.
Yeah, I think that when you make that transition, there are lots of avenues in, and the beauty of the way even the Regents runs, that you only need a certain amount of Regents when you graduate, so we do have the ability and flexibility for our students when they get to the high school level to take multiple sciences, and as long as they hit that one Regent level, then they have the ability to take different electives and different types of sciences. I think speaking for the middle school experience, that the program that was selected to be put into Blue Mountain, it will definitely support those baseline foundations, that when they get to the high school, that it wouldn't be a problem to take those higher level sciences, because they'll have such a strong foundation. And in the more phenomena-based hands-on science, which is where the state is really moving anyway.
What is living environment for those of us who haven't had kids in middle school?
Ecology based in there, so
Thank
not just body systems, but you also have a little bit more ecology and sun and energy pieces.
So years, our 7th and 8th graders have taken it 2 years for many years. So it was a 1-year class that you would take in high school, but they were taking it 7th and 8th grade. So now that we have this new science program, they're testing into living environment for 8th grade. So then we're gonna have more kids taking theoretically living environment at the high school going forward.
Right, New York State changed the science standards. So there was a big push to create national science standards. And New York State, because we just love doing things in incredible detail, that they shifted some of those standards. So now they've kind of shifted and adjusted how all of those, where all the assessments are, and kind of moving things down. Ultimately, I think they'll be shifting the regions too. In hopefully a shorter period of time than things get done in New York State, which will be more meaningful for kids and not just that rote memorization, which is really what they've done in the K-8 side of changing those standards. The ones that were the K-12 standards are really more spiral based and not just, looking at chemistry in 1 year and physics in 1 year and biology in 1 year. So that's kind of the reasoning behind making that shift.
Thank you.
I just have a question. Can you clarify what metrics are used to qualify a student for reading support or math support?
Yeah, so right now in reading support, our students in reading and math, beginning of the year, they take a baseline assessment with the iReady assessment. They use iReady, and then students from that iReady assessment, that one baseline point, then are given additional assessments. So in Ames Web or Fontes and Pinnell, like a running record where the kids are sitting with the reading teacher and really digging down deeply, or KeyMath, which is our math assessment. And then they kind of take that information and look at it. Okay, is it a decoding problem? Is it a reading problem? Is it something we can address in the whole classroom? Is it something that needs to be addressed more targeted in a shorter period of time? The metrics, we usually use more than 2 grade levels below where we are, and that's pretty standard in New York State, coming from the experience that I had in my previous district. But that's definitely where we are now as a district, is using at least 2 grade levels below.
So the student they come into 6th grade, they take a test, and that test qualifies them for reading or math support.
Yeah, they take it 3 times a year. So we do progress monitor throughout the year, and not just how you are at the beginning of the year, but we'll assess it ongoing. And to that point, if we notice that there's a pattern in class, maybe that doesn't match the assessment, or we're noticing something else in class or another additional piece, then that name is brought back up to the committee to say, let's look at all the data again and see where we are. Is there another assessment we can give this child to pinpoint it a little bit more closely?
And who sets that? Like, who sets that policy? Because I know I obviously came from the district. Who in the district sets it?
The RTI process or the MTSS process is an initiative, I guess, state ed, New York State ed, and then we roll it out how we look at it in our district.
And my last thing, just good. I know you came from Croton, and I was on the Croton website, and I know you're looking at scheduling.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blown away the fact that I can look up by teacher, subject, or grade level and find any curriculum map in the school district. So hopefully that can come to us.
Yeah, I think our year at a glances will be out soon. Our teachers are working on those on their early release day. I know a lot of my, even my math and science and world language departments are getting with the high school to have that conversation of what it looks like 6-12 too. So hopefully those will be out there soon for everyone to take a look at.
To quickly just go back to your the assessment 2 grade levels below.
Mhm.
So 7th grader reads at 5th grade. that triggers, or fifth grade is acceptable and you have to read it fourth
We
grade to
would
trigger?
We would trigger a
So as long, the
conversation.
one grade level is a buffer and beyond one grade level, the second is the trigger. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll invite Dr. Kramer up. Frank G. Lindsay with our kindergarten and first graders and 34 pre-Ks.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I have my phone because I realized I grabbed the wrong paper off my desk, so my notes are down on my phone. So I apologize. So 3 things that are going well. One is the UPK program, the Universal Pre-K, which is phenomenal. We have 2 sections, 17 students each, teacher and teaching assistant in each class. And spending time in those classrooms spending time in any of the classrooms is amazing, but in those classrooms in particular, because every single thing the kids do, every interaction they have, they're learning from it. They're starting off not knowing how to take turns, not knowing how to have a conversation sometimes, not knowing how to ask a question. And these things they're learning through play, through structured play, through group conversations during morning meeting, through small group work with the teacher and the teaching assistant, through individual partner work with their peers. And it's truly amazing. Right now, the classrooms are set up as grocery stores, and the children are exploring all there is to find in a grocery store. There's a florist section, there's a deli, there's delivery trucks, there's a bakery, and the children play the roles of the customers, the cashiers, the florist person. It's really exciting and really fun to watch. So that has been truly amazing to see, and literally every single day there's growth with those kids. Another great initiative is our student kitchen, which was brought to us by a grant from Entergy and has been put to very good use. It's been outfitted with all the necessary appliances and the necessary ingredients to cook pretty much anything that we want to cook, and classes have been signing up to use that space. So we've had some Rice Krispie treats, we've had milkshakes, we've had sugar cookies, chocolate chip cookies, and next week I hear we have corn muffins coming for Thanksgiving. So a lot of great learning is going on in that space as well for all the grade levels. And our third thing is our Sailor Strong, the introduction of our Sailor Strong through our PBIS program. And that's the acronym that I'm sure you're aware has been adopted by 3 elementary schools to reinforce our PBIS and our behavioral supports within the school. So we introduced Sailor Strong to the students through a number of assemblies, and the teachers are reinforcing that in the classrooms, and I'm reinforcing that when I have to meet the students one-on-one about different issues. And they're learning that language, and they're learning what it means to be a strong sailor. We have our Strong Sailors of the Month at Frank G. Lindsay, where every teacher has an opportunity to nominate a student who they feel kind of gone above and beyond that month, and they get their picture taken and their certificate goes up on the board and they get their name announced in the morning. And we have monthly assemblies, and we also have, along with the monthly assemblies, is usually some type of project that everybody in the school participates in. So for November, it is What Am I Thankful For? And there's a giant turkey. If you're walking down the main hallway, as you're going up the ramp on the left-hand side, there's a giant turkey with a feather from every child in the school that they've decorated and written what they're thankful for. And we tie that in with Sailor Strong. So being thankful is part of being neighborly, which is the N in strong. It's part of being respectful, which is the R in strong. So it all comes together. It's going really well. A couple priorities, continuing to look at data. We've started monthly data meetings this year across the elementary schools. We have an ELA data meeting and a math data meeting each month for small groups of teachers. And we really look at what the students are doing and what the data tells us about the progress they're making. And we have conversations about what else can we do to support these students? How can we give them more? How can we close the gap if there is a gap? How can we enrich the ones who need to be pushed a little bit further? So in the beginning, we're looking at the benchmark data, and we're looking at sometimes data from the spring to see where kids need to be, who needs to be pulled out, who needs to be given extra support, who needs that little bit of extra within the classroom. And now, as we move into the next couple of months, we're looking at the progress those students are making, and we're analyzing that data to see who's really catching up and doing a great job and maybe doesn't need as much extra support anymore, and who might be falling behind a little bit and need that extra push, and how can we make sure that that happens? So continuing those conversations is really important. Building beautification is something that we've been working on, and the PTA has been super supportive, so thank you, everybody, from the PTA. We have 2 initiatives that will be taking off over the next few months, few weeks and months. The first is the classroom door project. So each classroom door within the building will have a storybook character painted on it by the high school art students. And that's being spearheaded by Jessica Nash here at the high school. And the PTA is funding the purchasing of the paint and the other supplies that we need for that. So the students hopefully are going to get that started within the next few weeks. And we're excited to see how that comes to fruition. Right now, each door has a laminated printout of the character. So the kids have gotten used to, oh, I'm in the Clifford room, or I'm in the Serena room, so that it's just another way to make it a little more early elementary friendly and help the kids recognize their door as they're walking down the hallway. So we're looking forward to getting those painted on permanently. And the second thing is, oh no, that was my second thing, sorry. Something that was a pleasant surprise was really how smooth the beginning of the year went. I wasn't really worried about how it would go, but I thought there might be a few more bumps than we actually had. And that's not to say it was completely smooth. We definitely had bumps in the road. But the Frank G. Lindsay community, the teachers, the staff, the parents, the kids, all really came together to make it work. And we had a fantastic opening to the school. And, you know, we've continued to make progress and move forward. And when things come up, we address them and we work together and we adjust as needed. But it's really been just a great experience. And I am so thrilled that I'm with the little ones. I walk around with a smile on my face all day long because I get to spend time with 2 little kids. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Kramer?
Yeah.
I'm glad that the kitchen is being utilized. I hear that there's this, I know you're not gonna know this off the top of your
Okay.
head, so I'm not putting you on the spot.
Okay.
I know that there's a sign-up sheet.
Yes.
Can you give us a copy of that sign-up sheet so we can really get a feel for the daily and weekly utilization of that classroom space?
Sure. I can ask that to be shared. Absolutely. Thank you. No problem.
I think it's great that we have a kitchen at K1, but I feel like the other schools are missing out a little bit, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how we can do to remedy that, but it's great. K1 as a kitchen, but our 2nd and 3rd graders probably could benefit from that a great deal, to be honest, especially because I think it fits a lot more into where they are learning math and things like that. So something to look forward to in the future. If we have a classroom, that's a problem. I have a question you might not be able to answer. I think you would kind of give an idea of the UPK students in the classes. How many of them would you estimate wouldn't have been in pre-K if we didn't have this program?
Oh, gosh. Margaret, do you have any idea? I have no idea. Yeah.
That's such a personal decision
Right.
for families. Couldn't say if people could have or would have been interested or would have afforded it.
Right.
You know, on an average, I know a lot of people who tell me that their pre-K tuition is more than their mortgage.
Pre-K tuition for the year for a pre-K
Yeah.
program is like $5,000.
Yeah.
It's very inexpensive.
No, that's not true.
I think it's daycare
Depends on where
versus
you go.
pre-K.
Yeah, but I'm talking about pre-K. I'm not talking about
So
daycare at all.
the
I'm talking
information
about
that we
pre-K.
collect when people enroll, we wouldn't be able to capture, right? There's no information about somebody.
I'm the daycare and pre-K. are two
Parents had to
different-
sign up for the lottery, so I would assume they would have been interested in their child going to some type of pre-K program, but yeah, I don't.
If they had the information that we have.
Doesn't
Right.
provide that. Yeah, because there is a big difference in pre-K versus daycare, right? I mean.
Absolutely.
Huge
Yeah,
difference.
That's what I'm.
The fourth.
Yeah.
I would
And
agree
that was
with
the
you.
advantage to the local collaborator because you can have wraparound. We can't do that at Frank J.
Right.
I actually have one question.
Oh, sure.
My question is actually about the characters in the door.
Okay.
Well, first of all, it's painting doors, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's not up to me. But do we have an issue with, I work in publishing, so copyright laws, if you use certain characters. I mean, I know it's inside the building and not outside the building, but I just think it's something that, I know Disney actually come up with that, just something to keep in mind.
Okay. There's no Disney characters for sure.
Okay.
But it's something we can definitely look into to make sure we're not infringing on anything for sure. Yeah.
For UPK, is there any, have you seen any collaboration between our partners and our teachers? that
Yes.
we haven't?
Actually, we had a traffic safety program the other day that one of the UPK teachers set up for a woman to come in from the county and speak to the two classes about car safety and the importance of wearing your seatbelt. And we reached out to the parents at a Rising Star and invited them to join if they chose to. We had 4 parents who brought their child for the day. It was during the school days and they had to provide, transportation for the half hour, so it wasn't ideal. But they did come and, spend a little bit of time with their peers in the building. So we will continue to invite them to things like that in the future. And the UPK families are also welcome to join the elementary PTA, whether they're at Frank G or at a Rising Star, so they can become involved in that respect as well.
Thanks.
Do the UPK students receive all the specials that the K and 1 do?
They don't at this time, and that's really a scheduling issue. They do get art
Okay.
every other day, which is great because they're working on fine motor skills and learning colors and shapes, and it ties right in with the learning they're doing in the classroom anyway. And the music teacher, Mrs. Grellis, has been kind enough to share some instruments with the classroom teachers, so they have access to some of the tools that they'll be using, when they go to music as a kindergartner. And Mr. Bruno has provided some access to some equipment from the gym as well, so they can use scooters and jump ropes and things like that. So, yeah.
All the questions for Dr. Kramer? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll invite up Donna Creasy, FPV.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
Right.
So, I have to say we had a bang up start for the school year. If everybody has visited BV, I guess I'm gonna start with my pleasant surprise because that's who I am. I have never met a BV community that has been so wonderful, from the police department to the fire department to everybody involved. And my teachers are teacher leaders. And that's the biggest surprise. Besides the unpacking of boxes and everything they have to go through, they still wanted those committees formed. And they still want to move ahead. Special thanks to Mr. Catalan and to also Mr. Malini, who has helped so much in making sure during the summer that everything needed to be done was done at BVIC, from the interior painting to the new flooring to the beautiful sofas we have in the front, to the outside that I spent many hours planting over 75 months in the front. But at least I have a retirement perspective. I can go into gardening. But it has been nothing but a wonderful working environment for me and my teachers. And I think a few are here tonight, Ms. Bailey and the staff, and they have been unbelievable supports for us too. I mean, everybody's just jumping on board on the PBIS train and the leadership train, and we had to rework the emergency plans for BV with different routes and things like that, putting doorway numbers on and working on mapping that we had to redo. So I thank them for all their hard work. So that was a great pleasant surprise, was to have all these committees. As you know, 2-3 is considered the cleanup years. That's right. We need to clean up and make sure that everyone that passes my door no longer needs academic intervention services or any help. And we also have to make sure that every student also gets enrichment opportunities. That's our focus and our priorities at BV. At BV, we have a wonderful MTSS team. We work with our reading teachers and our math teachers. We work to develop and look at the data to see not only children that are not performing, but children that are not challenged enough. MTSS is not about the final bridge to classification. It is about making us facilitators, making sure that we know every child and we meet the needs of every child, socially, emotionally, and also academically. And with that team, we also developed different programs within the building to also assist. We luckily, thank you, Margaret, kept the bridge program for 2-3 this year as a cleanup. We worked to make sure that those students are receiving an hour and a half outside the classroom. We also added the writing piece, which was very important. Besides the Wilson, the Orton-Gilling, the phonemic awareness, or comprehension, we also are adding the writing piece. Some districts, some of your high-end districts, really truly believe in the writing to read program, which is also wonderful. I know my own daughter had problems with reading and writing. You buy them a cell phone, you have them text and complete sentences. It's a wonderful tool. And we are using small computers to do this, and the children are doing really a bang-up job in these two programs. They're working side by side, the bridge teacher, which is Katrina Rocco, with our classroom teachers to make sure that they are in constant communication, day in, day out, in my office, out of my office, looking at formulating schedules that work. If you look at the master schedule, which was also an initiative and a priority, initiatives and priorities to me are almost the same thing, but initiative priority, what we did in the master schedule is we have no specials for the first period of the day, and we have no specials at the end of the day, because we have as a leadership team looking at developing win blocks, what we need. This will also allow second grades and third grades to mingle outside of their designated classrooms and kind of get a feel for other children in the building. Since we have 150 second graders, we were able to work very carefully with Claire Carey to give them a lunch period kind of together, so that they are intermingling and switching during lunch. And especially we're very blessed to have the 8:30 to 9 slot where they can intermingle. But now we want to do a little bit more. We were talking with our leadership team and looking at those 2 periods of the day, taking it easy, not stirring too much of an upset, but giving that time where maybe one teacher will be teaching poetry, another teacher will be teaching, I don't know, a math if a child has an interest, and they'll just get together with their buddies, friends outside the regular classroom, maybe children that they haven't even seen at lunch or recess. Another way so they get to know each other a little bit more, shake them around, and then when they get to third grade, they'll have more friends than they could ever imagine. Okay. So, as you know, like I said, I am the cleanup team, and when Mr. Cohen gets my students, they will no longer need any kind of intervention services, because that's my commitment and my promise, and my staff has made that also commitment and staff. They may be few. Oh, okay, keep going.
The hook comes
I look
back.
better in the dark. We're on television. Thank you. Thank you. So that is our purpose, and our MTSS, our leadership team, works day in and day night. Our leadership team also will drive our faculty meetings, really researching what teachers need in the classrooms and what they need to be trained on. So pretty soon, my leadership team will reach out. They will ask teachers, look, what do you want to see in our faculty meetings? What do you need PD in that hour, or sometimes if we're lucky with the half days beyond those hours that we can give to you. We have amazing teachers in this district. We can use these teachers for professional development. And when we do open those doors, and we have done that when I was at Frank G. Lindsay, we learned so much from each other. We go into faculty meetings, we visit each other's classrooms. We'll be going from classroom to classroom. We have a new classroom next month, just to show what's going on in the activities of that second grade class that is step forward. That also is a learning event and a priority, is to do walkthroughs with our teachers, have teachers visit each other in the classroom to kind of get a feel of what they're doing, because they're covering the same curriculum. I have to admit, having just second and third grade and just dealing with 2 curriculums, that's wonderful. I mean, I do miss the K-5, I'm not going to lie to you. I do miss to see that the trends going across the boards and to see where gaps are and growth are, but I will make that commitment. I know that I already asked Mr. Cohen to go visit my kids down in 4 or 5 because I made that promise to them, but we will work across the K through 5 principal to make sure that they know our students moving on in the future. So that's also another initiative, really getting down to Frank G. Lindsay, meeting my oncoming first graders now, not waiting till the end, so that I'm a familiar face, And also 4 or 5, just to know that I'm always there no matter what, through their years and experiences. I think that's another initiative that we all look for in this Princeton plan. I hope that answered you.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just wanted to say, to teachers, because the board did, tours over the summer of the buildings. And we were so blown away with all the boxes and how much work was gonna go in to set up those classrooms. That we all volunteered our time to come in and help the
Well,
teachers.
where were you? We would have taken you up on
We
that.
told Joe, we were here, we volunteered for you guys. We thought you
can
didn't
come
wanna.
in and taking the time, right, Lynn?
Well, I just want to say to everybody here, I am blown away with the amount of work. And we just recently toured those buildings. I can't believe it's night and day. So kudos, ladies, you guys, men too, you deserve it.
We're always welcome anytime. You don't need an invitation.
Donna, can I ask one more question?
You can ask as many as you want.
Okay, so you mentioned having, sorry,
No.
oh, there you go.
You think I can.
You mentioned being able to have the second grade or third grade intermingle at lunch.
Mhm.
So do you have half of them out playing and half of them eating and then kind of like a swap?
Yes, so what happens is we do find that they can eat rather quickly at this
Yes.
age. They don't experiment with their food like they do in K1. It's amazing what they can build. But what we do is, once you're done, you
Yeah.
move to one side of the room, we get you out as fast as we can. We're not rushing anybody. They can eat all they want. In nice weather, go take it outside for all I care, whatever you want to do. So they will and intermingle together. Again, BV also has 8:30 to 9 o'clock. So parents can drop off at 8:30 to 9 o'clock and they're all out there, all of 2 and 3. So there are opportunities. We're just looking for a little bit more. And we're hoping that by February and March, we'll have those opportunities in the schedule that we designed, because we thought we were gonna really move into wind block this year, so I prepared. But we may work with the leadership ourselves to do that. But that is what they're doing at lunchtime. Claire was fantastic, because instead of wanting to, I didn't want to have 3.
Right.
Because if I have 3, then there's gonna be an outstanding class that doesn't have the amount of kids that we need to do. So I talked to Claire, and because kids do eat faster as they get older, they're able to do 80 lunches to 90 lunches. So they were able to pass that through. Thank you to our wonderful cafeteria people. Oh my God, I'm in heaven over here between the salads and the sandwiches. Now you know why I look the way I do. But it's amazing, the food that they put out here. We were able to feed more kids quickly, so we only have a third grade lunch and a second grade lunch. So, yeah, we looked at the numbers. I promised, we were gonna feedback, Claire if there's any issues. We're doing great. We're getting them in and out. And it's wonderful.
That sounds good. Go ahead, Erica.
Are they, at lunchtime, they can sit wherever they want, they're blending? Are they blending at all 3 elementary schools at lunch where they don't have to sit together with their own class? They can't sit with anyone else?
They have to stay in their class.
Do they actually?
Yeah, in 4th grade, I don't think you have first.
Yeah, for K1, they have to stay with their class because they're just too little.
Okay.
The TAs go to lunch with their classes, so they're there to support the kids and assist them, and each class is assigned a lunch monitor also. So it's the same 2 adults every day, so they get to know the kids, they know their needs, they know if they have allergies or food sensitivities or whatever the case may be. So we don't have them mingling during lunchtime. It's just safer and more productive, I think, to have them sitting by class. Also, they are a lot slower to eat and they take a lot more time, and there's a lot less focus by the kids as well. So we need to kind of support that as best we can.
So would you, and kindergarten is a whole different ballgame, but would you reassess that for 1st grade? In the second half of the year, you see, because I know that we did,
Yeah.
I mean, Frank G, our 1st graders intermingled
Right.
with one another in the cafeteria, pretty regular. So I'm just wondering, because
Yeah, I mean, it's something we can certainly look at it and see where things stand in the spring and hold it from there, sure.
how else, I mean, I didn't get to ask you this, but Donna gave a pretty good explanation of how her kids are seeing each other during the day. How are the kids in K1 meeting each other, making friends?
Absolutely. So we also have the 8:30 to 9 o'clock time when they get off the buses and get dropped off, and they're all on the playground together for grade levels. And then once a week, each grade level has an extra recess time where they go out to the playground and they are there with the entire grade level. There are times when every class can attend because they have something special scheduled or, a few kids have a pullout or something like that. But for the most part, most of the classes are out there each week, enjoying, the fresh air together. And some special events. Kindergarten has a Friendsgiving coming up next week where the entire grade is going to gather in the cafeteria on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and enjoy a Friendsgiving meal. So special events like that are taking place as well. We had the fire safety assembly came, and that was, the entire grade level together. Our PBI assemblies have the entire grade level together.
I think that
Like that.
I think your facility that gives you the opportunity to be able to do that, or the other two facilities don't necessarily allow that, right?
We can bring a grade level together. We can't bring the entire school together inside. We don't have space for that.
But the other two schools really, are you doing that?
Yes, so even if we have indoor recess or anything like that, they're going to the gym together. So, so even in the morning, I don't put them in their classrooms or outside their doors. One grade goes to the cafeteria and one grade goes to the gym. So they're constantly, they have every 39 rain or shine.
Josh presented?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna, because I have
Donna,
questions for all of them.
we can do that. Yeah. Just wanted to say, I
I could jump into that if you'd like.
utilizing your talented teachers, because any staff development that was worthwhile by a paid consultant.
Yes,
Just take note on that.
no.
The peer-to-peer staff development, it is where you really got something out of it.
And you know why it's so important is that the PD is readily available at all times. So you could knock on somebody's door and say, hey, can I come in? So the walkthroughs are important. The staff actually, we are going to be established. We did it at Frank G. Lindsay, where teachers were relieved of duties to walk around and actually see the great work that others were doing and say, hey, I like the way you're doing book reports. Can you show me additional? So it's just a great way of sharing and it's very inexpensive.
Love it.
Okay, well, thank you.
I can say one more thing.
Yeah.
So a parent just reminded me, thank you. Even though we can't always. So a parent just reminded me, thank you. Even though. Project and do something, so that's happening too in smaller groups. Thanks.
Thanks.
Right.
Mr. Cohen is joining us virtually tonight. We had a matter pop up last minute and Mr. Cohen is joining. Voice was heard and could join us. So I know Greg's going to work on some audio stuff, but Mr. Cohen is about 30 miles away, but can join us live here shortly.
Okay, well, hello everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm watching the video and people are walking off and then their audio finishes. So I apologize if there's any gaps in the timing. I'd like to start out by congratulating everybody received tenure across our district. And a special shout out to our teaching assistants, aides, and monitors. We recently had School-Related Professionals Day, and they're an integral part of our day-to-day instructionally. Our teaching assistants supporting our teachers, covering for classes, and everyone pitches in numerous ways. So wanted to shout out to them. Many things that Dr. Kramer and Mrs. Teresi shared are similar at Furnace Woods. Something that's going very well is, the empowerment of our students, giving them various strategies for conflict resolution, for, making good choices with the Sailor Strong and PBIS through assemblies, through class meetings, meeting with our school counselor. And really the goal is, what can you do independently without going to an adult necessarily to solve a conflict? What does being assertive mean? What does working something out mean? Because this is not just a 4th and 5th grade issue, this is a life skill. So our team has done a great job helping them with that. Engaging students, I'll give the example of STEAM. Ms. Boyle, Mrs. Sarah did a great job really focusing on the science, tech, engineering, math, and so on. The Ozobots, Miss Boyle does a Sailor News that she's done before with the green screen. That's outstanding. And the different topics that are really pinpointed and taught in that one class, which is something, again, off the teacher's plate as a main subject. So that's been going very well. I know Dr. Kramer talked about the Strong Sailor of the Month. We have a slight twist on that, the Sailor Superstars, where we focus on one trait a month that is, again, a life skill that they could benefit from, like what are communication skills? How do you collaborate well? This month it's focusing on the trait of grit and perseverance. And then the teachers select one student a month that consistently demonstrate that trait. Something new we've added is the special areas also are involved selecting a student that is consistent in specials. Leadership is one of those traits, and I'm excited that our ambassadors applications, those are students that want to demonstrate leadership skills, maybe help new families, improve bus behavior, and they wrote essays about why they should be an ambassador, what skills they possess, a teacher that has an impact on them. And those that moved on to round 2 will be doing interviews with Mr. Hochreiter and I next week. And once selected, they will help, be our student leaders at Furnace Woods. And some priorities. So as Dr. Kramer and Mr. Teresi shared, data analysis, meeting with our teachers, working on the MTSS process. How do we address the areas of concerns? Extend the learning for those that maybe when you start the lesson already knew everything off the bat. And following up on that progress. And then what I would say as far as behavior goes, that's something not in the classrooms that we're experiencing, it's the unstructured times. Bus, recess in particular, slightly less lunch, and how do we help people make better choices from past experiences and explore what are your other options that could have got you out of trouble. And unexpected surprise, again, it's kind of similar to what we heard earlier from Dr. Kramer. We all knew it would work out, but as quickly as it did and how well it did, no matter what school or zip code people were from, the staff, students really came together well. And, that's a testament to everyone's efforts. It's, the PTA is mixed from, where everyone came from, the families, staff, and everyone is really coming together on behalf of our students.
Awesome. Thank you. You still there?
I don't know if it's this or us.
Still there. Okay. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Cohen? Still there? I don't know if it's this or us. Still there. Okay. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Cohen? No. Anybody have questions?
But I feel bad because it's like a delay.
Well, you don't have to feel
Just
bad.
do it.
Wait.
Can you hear us well, Mr. Cohen? Can you hear us well, Mr. Cohen?
I can hear you now. I don't know when you asked it. Hopefully it's in real time.
Like it's going to the moon.
I just wanted to ask a similar question that we asked Donna about how the students are meeting one another. Are they blending at lunch? About how that all working in your building with lunch.
Yeah. So that's a little bit different, and I think it's a function from year to year on the numbers. So Furnace Woods has over 360 students, more sections, so it makes it a little bit more challenging. I agree about the safety, the allergies, and really having a monitor get to know a class well, behaviorally, medically, things like that. So we are not mixing people around. We also have 3 lunch blocks. We tried to have 2, but it's too many kids to get through the lunch block in one time. However, looking at, projections for the future, that is something we can do. If you have 4 in one having lunch, 4 having recess, it's much easier to flip things around at different points. But we are spilling into multiple lunch periods, so we wouldn't be able to do that for everybody. Trying to switch that, we explored that early on. Now you're affecting related services, AIS, things of that nature. But we do have all the same things as far as PTA events, assemblies during the day. There's after-school opportunities to get together, and different teachers are working with one another for experiences as well.
It's a follow-up to yours. How many sections are in fourth and how many sections are in fifth tiers? How many sections are how many sections are in fifth?
We have 8 of each, and there's the ABC and 12-1-2. So there's really 18 classes.
So if we're doing 3 lunch sections, that means that there's going to be a period where there's only 2 classes and a lunch. 3 lunch sections, that means that there's going to be a period where there's only 2 classes and a lunch.
They're correct. There's one. So one is a 4th grade, one is a 5th grade, and the middle one has a little 4th and a little 5th. Now 4th and 5th are not together. They're flip-flopping lunch and recess. But if you had, let's say 8 total, or not, sorry, 6, for instance, or even 7, it might work. But the problem is not even the sections alone. It's the numbers. At Furnace Woods, we have the highest class sizes. So, 4 sections in one school versus another is not the same total number of students.
Thank you.
Can I ask, I'm a little unsure on how
No
the STEAM
problem.
special works. Can I ask that I'm a little unsure on how the STEAM special works? Okay, I'll keep going. You said it takes off the plate of the teacher. I thought a special was an addition to. So are they not getting science instruction in the classroom? So it's not really a special then. We're taking the, it's okay. And my second question is you were talking about data. Is the ELA test score data, what that was data was released to parents. Has anyone in the school gone over the test score data with parents?
Okay.
I don't know.
So, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So there have been some people that reached out. I know, for instance, Dr. Ruller and I had spoken to a parent, but there hasn't been any formal event going over things other than the letters that had gone out.
Okay, because the letters that go out say at the bottom to check with the teacher, check with the school, and look into support services if your child doesn't do well. I don't know. I just think that maybe parents you could use some more direction with looking at the score and then what you do with it once you get it.
Would you like me to jump in?
Yes,
I would
maybe.
love to.
I'm
So-
sure.
Yes, and that is something that
I would love to.
I'm sure.
Let Josh.
what I would say is this is one measure of many that we use in our district, but it is something, especially with the increase in release questions, that we use to guide the instruction. But yeah, there hasn't been like a huge number of people reaching out.
Margaret, could you speak further to that, please?
Sure. So many years ago, New York State provided guidance, and they provide it additionally every year, that the results on the New York State tests cannot be the only thing that tells whether a kid needs help or not. The simplest way to say that is that we all have kids who are what's the right word, Lisa?
Test anxiety.
Have test anxiety. So a kid could be performing perfectly well and bomb the ELA test. We also know that as kids move from 3rd grade up, they value less that experience. So they don't necessarily do their best work because it's this again, and they just, I had one kid one year make a pattern with their multiple choice answers. So for us to be able to say, Lisa needs support, I cannot just say, oh, she only got a 2 on the ELA, into support she goes. I need to look at local measures and figure out if she truly needs support or if she just did not have the best day that she could possibly have. And that is not just our purview. That is the guidance from the state. You don't go into or you don't come out of based on one score. I think that's what Josh was trying to say.
And I get that, and I've had this conversation with you before.
Yeah.
It said we look at multiple measures.
We do.
but then your kid is denied support services based on one test. It's not
When,
multiple.
when
tests.
has that happened?
In sixth grade, when you screen them in sixth grade.
Yeah.
And you give them a test and they don't go 2 grade levels behind, they do not get support services.
I thought I heard Lauren say a few minutes ago that it is F&P, it is iReady, it is the individual.
Okay, so I'll give you a snapshot. A 2 on the ELA, 2 in reading and writing on a report card, a 4th grade level on iReady, and then a 5th grade level on Fontes and Pinella. So if we do a snapshot of all of that, that person is denied reading.
Do you have a meeting coming up?
I'm not just speaking to me, I'm speaking to every parent out there. Because when you get a test result for your child, and I get that what New York State says, that's why New York State gave you ESSER money, over $1 million to catch these kids up. So my point is, I think there's a lot of kids that need support. And if we keep pushing them through, we're going to eventually have kids who just drop out of high school. And I say that from working in a high school for 25 years. So we truly need to look at a complete picture. I'm not the only one.
I think that we are, and I think the 5 principals sitting here today would agree with that. I think you heard Donna mention that we're running a bridge program again. We have a reading recovery teacher in the K-1 building. We do look at the whole picture, and kids do get the support that they need. There are many multiple opportunities at Blue Mountain Middle School for those kids to get additional reading and additional math support.
So what do you say to the parents who are concerned and they're looking at everything from a whole picture that are denied support services? Where would you tell that parent to go?
I would tell that parent to go to school, as I know you are and you have in the past, and meet with your principal and your teachers and look at the whole picture. And then if the decision is made based on the whole picture that we see, comparing your child to where we would expect them to be at that age and that grade, there isn't anybody in this room or in this district that would deny a child support.
But we just said that we only give support if they're 2 grade levels behind.
Ladies, can I just interject for 1 second? I'm afraid that there's a little bit, things getting a little personal. No, I mean, I feel like you're talking about a child. So I would like to table this conversation if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay, because I just don't want anyone to feel. Right.
I
So-
just think that the parents should have a little bit more guidance when they get the ELA test results, because the bottom of the test says that the school is supposed to give you guidance. That's it.
Questions for Mr. Cohen?
I have a question, Mr. Cohen, about how music is working with so many students in your building, and how are they rehearsing and practicing together? And how is music instruction going? I know we had projections for only having about 8 kids in a class for music instruction. Is that actually working out, or are you seeing that needed to be adjusted as we move forward?
So I'm laughing because I think Mr. Frank and Mrs. Landry have been great. You know, they've done several revisions throughout this year to make it work. There's a couple different things if we're talking lessons versus, general music. So I think what we're talking about is the lessons. So we've been able to work it out where the set groups are no larger than 8. And that was something we were comfortable with. And, what you can miss, what you cannot miss, these are things we've been working with Dr. Roller, and making sure that we're balancing needs of, the musical aspect, which is great for the kids, and what that means for instruction. What do you miss and how do people catch you up? So we, everything is important, and how we balance that has been an ongoing conversation. But Mr. Frank, Mrs. Landry, and I, we met with classroom teachers, shared what's working, what's not working, and I think that goes back to the relationship between teachers of how to make that successful. So we've gotten the group sizes down. I think the average is lower than 8. I don't have that exact number in front of me. It might be around 6, give or take. Some are a little bit less if people don't sign up for it. Some are spread out in more groups. But I think we've come to a happy compromise with that. And then as far as chorus goes, Mrs. Landry has done a great job doing a couple at a time. We're working on like how do we get as many people in performance-wise, working with the middle school for the space, practice, rehearsals, and everyone just has to be flexible with one another, which seems to be the case thus far.
I'm gonna make a general statement because I think this is really about numbers more than anything else, and that's where limitations are, Mr. Collins. So
Really about numbers
we
more than
created
anything else, and
a
that's
small middle school model at 4-5 building. And it sounds like Donna's building is running a little differently. A lot of it's due to numbers. But is there anything that we can do? And I understand that you have a lot of behavioral things going on to get these kids blended. Do you have a win block built in, projected going forward? I don't love the idea that 4th and 5th grade are eating together instead of 5th and 5th grade and 4th and 4th grade. I mean, the whole idea of this was that the kids were going to see each other. And I have a concern, especially for the Furnace Wood students in those really small class sizes last year, that they are diluted. I know we've had parents say this to us in the model. And how are they seeing their friends? Like it has to be a priority because that's what we promised, right? That's part of what this was supposed to look like.
So I think it's, yes and no. Part of it is to increase the friend pool. Like, so when you go to middle school, you may not have classes with your friends. And this is an opportunity to start earlier to get to know one another. So, in the things that we talked about, whether it's those assemblies, other opportunities, both inside and outside of school, and we'll continue to work on that. Are there other opportunities that we as a district can do? Just like we want the teachers working together, maybe Dr. Kramer or Ms. Teresi or, anyone else has good ideas. We're going to constantly brainstorm. Family members have shared ideas. So we're open to doing that. What we don't want to do, for instance, like with the switching, everyone's kind of got a little bit comfortable, not just with the people they knew before, but with, people they've met in friend groups. So if we keep switching it every, couple of months, that, it solves it for some, causes a new issue for somebody else. So that's a difficult thing to do, especially with the numbers. But, it's not something any of us, I think, are closed off to. And as far as windows, that was something we said for teachers is a next year's expectation, but we are meeting with teachers to think, what can work and when, and what do we need to make that successful. We don't want to just jump in, do it for the sake of doing it if it's not well thought out and planned for carefully.
So for the middle school looks a lot different than this because the middle school has a lunch that has all 180, 190, 150 kids together. So yes, they do kind of sit at their own tables, but they do get to see each other that period of time. They also switch classes where they might not be with their best friend because they're not in the same team. But then we have unified arts classes and we have music classes. So there is a lot of blending at the middle school that we have that now you have just as many students. And that's what I'm saying. And I'm grateful that you're open to different ideas and feedback. But I think part of the promise of this was that these students would get to know each other and see each other more and mingle more and learn better together. They can't have chorus together. I'm assuming there's nowhere to practice chorus. They can't have band together. They can't have orchestra together. And yeah, you can argue that in the 3 elementary schools, we didn't do that either, but there has to be a way, and it's a facilities issue as well. So moving forward, I think it's something that we do have to discuss. I mean, I think amongst you guys, not amongst us as a board, of how we can get these kids more time to get to know each other, because it isn't like middle school. And in middle school, you see your friends and you get to know different kids. And the unified arts model is a great model. It's similar to special, but if you're going to unified arts with a different group of students, it's not just your class going to special. So I think there are ways around this. I think it's just going to take a lot of, brainstorming and being open to new ideas that we haven't explored before.
And the last thing I'll just add to that is that out of 360 and change kids, there really hasn't been many with issues. We've heard from a couple families and students having real challenges, but that is a very small minority. I would say most are doing very well, whether it's on their own or with some supports of our, whether it's mental health team or teacher collaboration. Overall, this is going very well.
And I'm just going to jump in for the public to understand when we talk about numbers and shifts in grade level. So when we look at rolling over grade levels next year, BV will actually gain about, I'm going to use rough numbers, 40 students. Furnace Woods will lose about 50 students, and we never really know what happens with kindergarten. So it's one of the moving targets that the principals always have to plan with, is how many kids are they expecting the following year? And then we assign a number of teachers and sections and build master schedules around that. So our grade levels right now, as Josh mentioned, the highest of our K-5 is fourth grade at 175. Our lowest right now is at third grade at about 124. We're averaging anywhere really around 150. And that's a pretty big shift from where we were 10 years ago. And in 2 weeks, at our board meeting in late November, we'll talk about what our next 10-year projections and projection enrollment looks like. So I wanted to give everyone context about the decisions or opportunities that exist based on enrollment. Those are some of the big bubbles, and it's really it's uncommon to see those kind of bubbles. But next year Furnace Woods will have fewer sections. BV likely will have more, and that will create a different set of decisions that will need to be made. But it's enrollment driven and based on number of sections, and one of the moving targets that they all have to deal with. Enrollment driven based on number of sections, and one of the moving targets that they all have to deal with.
And the other thing, so the last thing I would say to that point is, if anyone has a specific issue, encourage them to reach out to me, the teacher, or all of the above, because we've troubleshooted a couple of these issues and they've all worked out well. Once we dug deeper to find out what was really going on, we had solutions. So again, any specific people that may be raising that concern, please have them reach out.
I have one question that can go to all three principals, I believe. Is that I know you guys started this year with a new math program and a new writing program. How is that going with the students, the staff? Is everyone embracing it? Are there any concerns? Are we missing Eureka? Can you give us a synopsis on how the new curriculum is going?
Hi, it is a new program. I'm not going to. It is different than what we have had in the past. We do have some concerns with the program. We are going to reach out and get additional PD. We are giving the teachers 2 hours a month to work and develop it, and we'll also give them time also throughout the day of the week. I know I will, to kind of look at the program. We need to make sure that it keeps the rigor that the other program did, such as word problems. We had a great discussion with grade level leaders yesterday. I was there representing second. And there are concerns, and I'm going to be honest with you, it is a different program, it's a little bit, but we are assured by the people that published it that these are teachers that put this program together. They heard the call of our needs, and we're hoping that in the long end, as we go through the 8 or 9 modules, thank you. Module, it's getting late. All right, it will come to the challenge that we need to, but the teachers are taking what was there, what we had, just as we have done with other things, and trying to mesh them together.
Supplement.
It's providing, it's work. There is a piece that we are concerned, technology piece. We need to work, and we're focusing on telling the company there and the parent support We used to be able to, say, oh, my kid's out today. Workbook page 38 is on the thing. This program doesn't offer that. So we need to look at that also. Huh? I'm sorry.
I didn't think that was what came up yesterday.
No, but that's one of the things I'm hearing as a building principal. I'm sorry. So yes, I'm just being.
Well, it's not about this.
Did we? Often, I'm assuming, do we try a program before we implement it?
So
Typically, like, do we say like, we're gonna try this and?
Wait, can we take one step back? Can you just highlight what the last program was called and what this is called for the people that don't know? And what the difference is?
the original program was Eureka Math, and this was Eureka Squared. So initially, we were told by the publishers that Eureka Squared was a new and improved version of Eureka, that it was in response to concerns from teachers about Eureka not being very student friendly. And they tried to, put less items on a page for the little kids, address some of the concerns that teachers had about Eureka Math. When we actually got the program, that wasn't the case. It's very different. So they have, in some cases, switched things around, changed the scope and sequence, and made some other adjustments that we weren't expecting. So that's why it wasn't piloted initially, because we were thinking it was the same program, just laid out a little bit differently as far as how it looked. So now we're trying to figure that out.
So we did a new math program and didn't look at it before we bought it?
It was reviewed, right, Margaret? There were teachers who reviewed it and looked at it, but it's some of the other pieces that are difficult for the teachers to manage right now that are different. So, for example, in kindergarten, the teachers chose not to purchase the workbooks because they wanted to be able to print the pages that they needed and not waste money and the workbooks for the pages that they don't, because they don't necessarily use every single page in the workbook because of the needs of the kids. But now the printing is much more cumbersome and much more difficult to do than it was with the original program. So that's one of the concerns for some of the grade levels. But there, like Donna had said, we're working to take this new program, work through it, and pull as we need some things from the old program that are helpful as well.
So does it make sense? Well, I have two questions. One, is there a price difference between Eureka and Eureka Squared? Or do they cost the same?
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, I think
So there's no cost increase to switch.
Now,
And then I guess my second question is, does it make sense to go back, right? And if so, how do we make sure that we don't make a decision like this again, when we also decided to go into grade bank at the exact same time to implement a brand new math program? It just seems to me. Oh, we did right. Oh, but we,
It's not a new writing program, it's a word study program. It's their way.
that was piloted by the teachers.
was the math program the same? Did we pilot the math program the same way we piloted the Word Your Way program?
No, because we didn't think it was a new program.
Okay.
We thought it was just kind of a revision of the program we already had.
Jeremy, the other problem that I heard from Benita is that our smart boards that we bought started buying 2 years ago, they don't work with this new program.
The Word Your Way program or the
The smart board,
no, the math or the reading program?
I don't know which of
The math, I think, right? I think it's the math.
I don't know. She just
Word Your
mentioned.
Way
is actually multi-sensory.
Yeah.
So that's, the kids are touching that.
Yes, so just to thank you, that's a lovely explanation. Donna was at the meeting yesterday, so we put this in front of teachers. There were teachers that looked at this last year because this was an upgrade, it wasn't a new program. The teachers have been complaining about, there is no program that meets the needs of all kids, so that's something we should just say. Every teacher that's worth their salt differentiates and brings things in for the kids that need challenge. It finds extra things for kids that need support. There's no program that's ever been written in any content area that's going to meet every kid where they are. That being said, for a long time, teachers had complaints. As Donna said, it wasn't laid out well. It was a little overwhelming for some of the younger students to read. They wanted it, and we're not the only people, obviously, this is a nationwide program with a very strong reputation. So they took the feedback from teachers and they called it Eureka Square. They could have left it as Eureka, but they called it Eureka Square. We had a few teachers that looked at it last year on each grade level with material that was sent to us by the publisher. We had a number of teachers, including myself, who took PD over the summer. We were told repeatedly, if your teachers have been using Eureka, which we have for what, more than 10 years? Yeah. This is an easy transition. If there isn't even their professional development. If you were a user, the professional development was a crazy webinar that really didn't give you the information that you needed. That being said, here we are. So we met twice now. We met once with the regional rep for the Northeast, and we let him know what our concerns were. We met last week as a team to talk about what are we going to do next. And I asked them to go back to their grade level colleagues. They did. We met last night with grade levels. Donna was there to say, what would you like to do? The company is impossible to get a hold of, but we did get a hold of someone. They offered us, well, they didn't offer us, we have to pay them, but they gave us potential PD dates, which we're trying to work with. They gave us an opportunity to talk to the writers of the curriculum so that we could pick their brain about why certain things were done, because people had questions. And they also offered to hook us up with 2 school districts in the area who've been using the Square program now for over a year. We met last night. The grade level leaders came to the table. We went around the table and asked every grade level leader what they thought. They do not want to abandon the program. They want the time that Donna and Cindy talked about after school to work towards how do we work with it. I mean, any new thing is challenging. So they want to look at the program together, share how they can move forward with it, pick some things out of the old program that can go with new modules. They will have time to do that. They'll have time, as I said, twice a month. They'll have like a book study to do that. They have time on the early release days to do that. Thank you. If Don is going to make more time available to them on their common preps, I would imagine, to do that. That's where we are. We're working on getting PD in front of them. I'm hoping I can get it by the first of the year, but that's going to be a challenge for us in terms of covering teachers to be released for that in large groups. Again, we said to them yesterday, we get to the springtime and you feel you know enough about the program to make a decision that this isn't something you want to repeat in 23-24, then we will do a pilot, just like we piloted the word study program. So years ago, before COVID, we had a word study committee. We piloted 3 programs. As time went on, the people who did the pilot gave feedback and made a recommendation that we purchase Words Their Way. Words Their Way is not new this year. Started that work last year. They had PD last year. They had support within themselves. We have some teachers who have more experience with it from other places. This year they have pretty much more intensive PD. They had October, November, then have a December date. They're getting the support that they need and they're working with both programs.
That's the sister of Foundations. That's the sister of.
Well, it's a
You know.
similar program. It's similar in that it addresses phonics, spelling, and vocabulary. Yes, and it's a K-5 approach.
Thank you. It sounds like we need like a policy that says we don't buy new programs, but we don't cross the pilot, right?
Wait,
So that
wait.
we can't be misled by a publisher who tells us it's the same thing. Sounds like a
I'm not
best
sure.
practice.
I'm not sure. This is the new board member question. I know that some school boards have actually approved changes in curriculum. Is that a policy that we have?
The curriculum, what New York State has done, and I'll let Margaret chime in what depth I have. What New York State has done is basically said, it is the New York State learning standards are the expectations of all kids in the state. The decision of what workbooks or textbooks or teacher-driven product you use to get there is the curriculum. So what the state basically did was have a uniform approach to say kids need to be doing these things in 3rd grade, kindergarten all the way through 12. Hey, schools, go figure out how you want to get there. What the state did at one point is they adopted or blessed certain publishers to deliver that content, or say if you buy Alexis's the Alexis publishing company, math curriculum, it's aligned to the state standards, and the state was in bed with making bedfellows with curriculum companies, and school districts said, wait a minute, now you're driving us all down the same road, and that's not fair. As Donna mentioned, and Cindy and Josh, we have decades of personal experiences of curriculum or resources that meet the state standards. So it's sort of an unanswered question is in terms of who controls curriculum. Is it the state or is it a school district? The state drew its line in the sand long, long ago with the Common Core Learning Standards. Your kids may have been in elementary school at that point, where the state said, this is the new math, right? This is the new math, and you guys have no choice because we're going to test you on it. And if you don't test well, we're going to put your name in lights in the newspaper. So whatever you want to use to teach these standards, have at it. But in New York State, these are the standards, and they're high and they're rigorous, and you have it. So I can't answer your question because what the state has done is muddied that water in terms of local control versus state control. And at that time, going all the way back to 2012, 2013, the feds were doing the same thing, basically saying, if you want federal money for education initiatives, you've got to adopt, I forgot what it, No Child Left, came out of No Child Left Behind, and then another educational initiative. So it's the taking away of local control. That was one example. And that was a big deal 10 years ago, that boards were trying to get back. What the state was saying is we can't have 700 school districts doing 700 different, having 700 different standards in terms of math and pretend that they're all equal and they're all rigorous. So it's an open question. I know I didn't answer it, but that's the tension.
I was going to say that the answer to your question is no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you did.
Simply put, but I don't think that I would imagine that's something that you could explore. That's just a fiscal thing, right? Before we make a purchase,
Well, yeah, that's what Margaret was saying. And those two major initiatives, we had a team of people together to weigh alternatives. We go to regional conferences. We talk within our BOCES, curriculum council, so on and so forth. What's best practice, what works, what doesn't, why do you like it, why don't you like it? And when our folks tested it and piloted it, really, the feedback of what we wanted, the feedback of Eureka Square versus the reality of what they delivered.
Right. I mean, honestly.
But we didn't pilot it, right?
No.
I want to be clear. We didn't pilot.
But they kept telling us it's not a new program. It was actually teachers that came to me. I didn't even realize this. Teachers came to me and said, look, they've done everything we've asked of them all these years, finally listening to the feedback from teachers. Would we be able to use this, to buy this next year instead of the old Eureka, for argument's sake? So we got material from the publishers. We put it in front of the grade levels. I even asked the AIS math people to look at it at one point. And we said, what do we want to do? Well, let's give it a go. So here we are.
So it's the teacher who decided to make this change.
Well, they asked.
Well, they're the ones who
They asked to look at
initiated it
Yes, they did.
and made the change.
Right.
I'm just gonna, I guess you could probably answer this question now. It's probably something that needs to be brought back to us, but. Well, with this program, will they be successful on the state test? Do we see that they're learning in a different order? One of the main reasons that we did use Eureka Math was because we felt that it matched the state test language most closely. So I know that was what
What was the
decision that was
original
made.
modules
Yeah.
from the state?
So that's why we stuck with it. So now we're going with a different, possibly, we're not sure, less rigorous program where our teachers actually have to supplement significantly more. And I'm assuming that we're gonna have to pay this extra time.
That's true.
We don't know that yet.
I can't say that that's true. And I will tell you that the teachers who came to the table yesterday argued that point with one another. That they didn't have any problems, some grades didn't have any problems with it. They see the benefits to it already. They don't want to walk away from it. They want time to go through it because it's still something new to them. The books are different, the modules are in different sequences. I would argue that a mathematician, a curriculum writer who put this together, and I'm glad that Kevin is making that available to us, can answer why the sequence has been altered.
But when we
Absolutely.
do buy a program, the director of technology needs to be part of that conversation, because a lot of times you buy
And if
curriculum.
Vinitha were here, she would explain what an issue is. Apparently, when developers write, I don't want to say code because I don't know if that's what it is, but the ability for the program to be projected digitally. There's an app behind the scenes.
But was she
that
part of that conversation when you bought the
They
program?
didn't create the app, no.
Because we've had that problem
Yes.
and you end up wasting money because it doesn't run.
You
Like they
can-
promise
well,
you
you
it's
can-
gonna run, but it doesn't.
Let's be honest about what happens. You can, there is a digital part of this that can be projected, that can be sent to children on their Chromebook. There are quizzes. There is the way that you write on the board is what is creating the problem. Apparently, it can't be saved as you go to the next screen. They're aware of it. Again, they're getting that feedback that that's a glitch in the situation, and they're working on that.
I just want to ask one question. So first, from what I'm hearing, sounds like everybody was trying to do the right thing, right? The teachers did some due diligence, you did some due diligence. You were assured by the publisher that this was just an upgrade, right? So, I completely understand where you're coming from. So my question is there anything we learned from this situation that if we were faced with the same situation again, that we might do differently to avoid potential issues like this?
Absolutely. Clearly, we would never take their word for it again.
Right.
We would definitely have a complete process of using, maybe we would have asked certain people to use the program next year if we were faced with that situation again with a different piece of curriculum. Absolutely.
So we learned, we're trying to address the issue now. We learned something for the future.
Sure.
So I think we could just put this aside as a learning, right? And we're moving forward from here. Right? Does that sound fair?
As long as the kids are not behind after this year, and which is gonna take a little while to tell, and now we've also transitioned them into a new model together, so this is gonna be, or even any metrics or results we get from this might not even be accurate, because now we have them all in Princeton plan model, so I see what you're saying, Corey, but like, we have to just do better, and I would love to know that the math AIS teachers look at this, and that our sixth grade math teachers actually looked at this, so that we're sure that our students going into middle school next year are prepared for middle school, because there's a lot of moving parts, and that you guys are the professionals, the moving parts. Sounds like we were promised something that we're not gonna get. So yeah, we can put it aside, but we can't let these kids suffer, and we're gonna have a skewed metrics now when it comes to math.
I think I just heard the point that the teachers understand that and they're working on it and they're trying to fix it. Right? So they're the professionals, they're the ones that we trust to teach our kids every day. So from my vantage point is they know this is an issue, they're working on it. I don't know that us reminding them of that is going to help that situation, right? I think you're already working on it, is from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have other questions for the elementary principals? The principal? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you all principals for coming
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move on to a completely different facet of the district. Enrique is going to walk us through our Standard and Poor's report. This is an opportunity to talk about the district's credit rating. And he has a brief presentation, and then he can talk about the reports and decisions that we'll be making or could make in the future as a result.
Thank you, everyone. This is not as interesting as having done the rest of the principles here, because this is about money. Without this, we cannot do anything, but it's not very interesting. Tonight I'm going to talk about the credit rating plan. I will want anticipation of results. I'm happy to say that our credit rating is very good, even after losing $24 million a year in Indian corn silos. Our short-term rating is ST1 plus, probably for all of you will say what does that mean. It means that we're at the top of the chain. And with long-term rating is A plus. That means that we're only 2 notches below the federal goal. That's how secure anyone that invests in our bonds is, that we will be able to pay it back. And the most important part is that S&P reiterated the district outlook as stable, even with all our challenges, financial challenges going forward, they still believe that we're stable. And the most important thing of all of that is that back in 2016, our credit rating was A plus. That was before median bond, and it's still A plus. So even though we lost $24 million in final payments, we still have an A plus credit rating. So why is it that we have a strong credit rating? First of all, because we have a strong market value that support the local tax. That means that our community is strong. The housing market in this community is strong. That's the main reason why we do so well. They also said that we've been doing well the last several years, even though there's pressure from our pilot revenue. Obviously, they take into account that we're getting about $60 million in the next 8 years from the cessation fund, and that we have ongoing goals to create the operational efficiencies. So, and finally, they say that we have a long-term debt plan to keep the debt service of the cost manageable. They also say that the financial management of the district is very well. They highlighted that we forecast and project very conservatively. We have reports to the board on a monthly basis. We have detailed projections for the last 12 years. We have the building condition, and basically at up until we decided not to have the 4% of unassigned fund balance because of Indian fund. We always started, and they understand why we need to be at 20% rather than 4%. So this report happened because we issue fund participation note last year, and the investors need to have S&P rated to see how much they are going to pay in interest. So I'm glad to say that 6 banks bid for the bond. The net interest cost was between 3.3 and 3.99. The bid was awarded to Jefferies with a coupon of 4.50, an interest that we will have to pay of $844,000. And so the bond was only 4 basis points, meaning 4 of 100 basis points is 1%, so it was 0.004% above the index rate. The net interest cost, as I said, was 3.3%. Very successful results. Alexis was in my office yesterday signing all the paperwork, saying that we were selling $18.7 million. And it was more signatures than she had ever had to sign because there were many signatures. So that's basically my presentation here. Take any questions. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Just a quick question. What is the common credit rating for our neighboring school districts that are similar to us?
About the same as ours.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
Generally higher, generally lower, or just generally?
Yeah, I'll say about the same. It cannot be much higher because they are not the federal government and they cannot bring money like the federal government. So either they are AA, that would be a notch above us, or A+, most of them, or A-. But I'd say, in average, I would say that probably all our surrounding big skill might be lower. Croton might be AA, and Lakeland very like this, like us, A+.
That's great. Great, thank you.
Can you just explain why we needed the bond, why we had to get the
Sure,
bond?
yeah. Most of the $18.7 million here is to refinance the bond anticipation note that we did last year for the capital project that we finished last year. We decided to do bond anticipation notes for 1 year until we could hire state aid because of our wealth ratio. So why is that? Because now I'm only paying interest. So for this year and last year, I will only get 10% state aid for my year instead of paying $3 million, just to say a number, in capital and interest. I'm only paying $700,000 in interest. So I'm getting $70,000. If I have, if the district had done the long-term bond and had already started paying $2-3 million in capital a year, that means that those $2 to $3 million we will get state aid at 10%. So until we don't get a higher aid, I don't want to have to pay capital with a 10% state aid, only interest. So hopefully by next year we'll be able to do the 18-year long-term bond. And Joe just sent an email to the people in the state aid, and I think we're having a meeting with them next week, Joe? Yeah. So we will have a much better idea where we are on the wealth ratio of the district.
Thank you, Enrique. Any other questions? Right.
Good, and two brief updates as we transition back to Enrique. We talked about the budget. We've had some discussions certainly at the board meeting, and some parents have reached out to myself, to Liz Gilio, about transportation. We met with a few families. We've been in communication with some who have asked us to reconsider some bus routes to alleviate some higher ridership in some buses and try to spread those students out to others. I know Liz continues to work with those families and trying to find some solutions. Some of the issues are, just so the public understands, that we have a 4-tier bus system, which means we recycle the same fleet throughout the day. And if one bus changes its route and is a little bit late dropping kids off in the morning, and we make sure they didn't miss instruction, because that bus has a very short window to drop kids off and get right back on the road to pick up others. But she's trying to work some magic to alleviate some higher ridership than what she's pleased with, and certainly from what we heard from some parents. So I know she's reaching out to those parents directly to give them some options, or at least to give them a status report of her work. And lastly, I want to remind everyone, first congratulate and remind everyone that our girls varsity volleyball team is in the state final four. This has become a common theme for our girls volleyball team. They played last year in the championship game and were a close runner-up. And this year they're going to try to capture the Class B New York State crown. So they will begin play Saturday at 3 o'clock. Last year they played the morning session, and I think we're in for a long night on Saturday night. So they're playing at the hockey arena in Glens Falls. So if you can get up there by 3 o'clock on Saturday, you'll watch some really fun volleyball. What they do is they take the hockey rink, they take all of the big glass boards down, and they have 3 volleyball courts across the hockey rink, and they suspend a net between the 2 courts, and you sit there, you think you're watching hockey, and there's just volleyball happening everywhere. So if you have ADD like me, it's perfect because everywhere you look, you see something going on. But it's a really neat venue, and it's last year was really special because we had our team was there, and I believe that one of the Lakeland teams were there, and they're in a different division, but our teams were playing around the same time. And when our team wasn't playing, our fans cheered for them and vice versa. But it's a really special event. It's a great opportunity for the girls. They're going to have a team breakfast here at the high school on Friday morning, and then they'll be escorted off campus. They're going to head up to Albany for a practice later on Friday. There are some state events put on by the State Athletic Association on Friday, and then Saturday they will perform at 3 o'clock. And if they're one of the top 2 of the 4 teams, they'll play again on Sunday at 2. So we'll keep you posted, but we have a pretty good contingent of folks that are going to spend the weekend in Glens Falls. And I believe Mr. Giovinazzi will be there. Certainly I'll be there, and Mr. Baker and some other folks. So we'll keep you apprised on their quest to become state champions.
All right, so I think we're gonna flip flop, right? And let the wonderful elementary PTA go before we review the budget calendar. That can come on up. Thank you for hanging in there with us. You know, it's 9 o'clock. Elementary PTA.
All right, so for those who don't know me, I'm Dana Boyer. I'm Antoinette Pio, and we are the co-presidents of our elementary PTA. We want to thank everybody here, especially our high school PTA president, our middle school co-president, who are here to support us, as well as members from our executive committee too. So thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for having us. We're really excited to give you this presentation and answer any questions you might have. Thank you. You go first. How did we get here? We are one elementary PTA, and so last year, the prior 3 PTA's executive boards met quite often in lengthy meetings. We had our New York State PTA regional director with us through all those meetings to evaluate the best option going forward with the Princeton plan. We knew it was going to happen, and we wanted to make sure that we had the right structure in place. So we looked at keeping all 3. Consolidating maybe to 2, maybe joining up with middle school. What would make sense for our family? We did the pros, cons, and then at the end, we decided it made sense to present 2 options to our membership. We did an educational session for all of them to make them aware of what the 2 best options were from a pro-con analysis. And it was either to stay consistent with 3 as we adopted to the Princeton plan, or go to 1 to create a unified unit.
And the feedback we had was, how would PTA meetings run? How would events run? How would we fit everyone in each building? So that is still kind of a challenge. You know, we're up to under 2 hours for our PTA meetings. We decided to go virtual, just to make it easier on all our families, because sometimes they do run late. Again, we have parents who have little ones. And it's been working out. So when did we form? So we chartered on August 1st, and we had the help of our New York State Region Director and the school district community resource, Beth Gruber. What happened to our prior PTA? So at the moment, we are not dissolved yet because we do have some outstanding checks from our seniors who received scholarships that they didn't cash yet. So once that happens, we will dissolve, our bank accounts will dissolve. But we have created the one unified PTA, that whole new bank account and everything. Who do we report to? We report to New York State PTA, and we have a local entity that governs us, which is WEPR. In addition, we also have an affiliation with the National PTA. So what you do, Arthur?
Our theme, during the summer when we were elected into, this new group, we thought about the Princeton plan, we thought about the one sailor model that we wanted to go to, and it came upon us that this was the right theme for us. Individually unique, together complete. To come together with the one sailor, and that's what we thought would make best for us, and that is our theme. And it's a theme that PTA likes to go behind as well. So for PTA New York State, it's every child, one voice, and that's what we wanted to see happen here for our elementary unit. The structure is, our executive committee is 2 co-presidents, 6 vice presidents, so we did 2 VPs per building. We have a reporting secretary, a corresponding secretary, and a treasurer. And then within our executive board, we have our 3 beautiful principals, and handsome principal. We have our, sorry, Josh. We also have our teacher liaisons from the building, and then the chairs of the standing committees that are a part of our procedures. And then our goal this year really is to create a unique experience together for our students, our teachers, our staff, and our parents, caregivers. And that's why our logo comes into play with the individual unique together complete.
There's our beautiful team of me as head co-president. I have 4 boys in the district, 4th grade, 5th grade, 9th, and 11th. Dana has 2, one in 1st and one in 4th at Furnace Woods. Allison, who is one of our VPs at Frank G, has a child at Frank G. Lindsay and Furnace Woods. We have Tanitra, who has a 1st grader who's here in the audience, and a little one who's a future sailor. Mariella is also here in the audience. She has 3 in 3rd, 6th, and BV. I mean, sorry, kindergarten, 2nd, and BV, 3rd, yes. Thank you. Alana Silverman, who has 1 in 3rd and 6th, and Myra Sullivan, who also has 4 in 2nd, 4th, 8th, and 9th. Casey, who has 1 in 3rd and 4th. Casey's here. Jess Burbeck, who's also here. She has a 1st and 3rd grader. Rebecca Chess, who has a rising pre-K and a 1st grader. And Katie, who has a 4th grader and a kindergartner.
And then on the right-hand side of this slide is all the people who raised their hands to volunteer to be on some of our standing committees, our general committees. It takes an army to really pull this all together. And so we just wanted to give them a huge shout out. If you're watching, thank you so much for saying yes to being an advocate, to being a member of our PTA, and for supporting your children and all that we do. So yeah, okay, so what we've accomplished so far, we won't read line by line or bullet by bullet. You can see everything we've done, but we've done a lot, and there's things that we're proud of. We're proud that by New York State PTA, we've won some awards, membership awards. It's cool. I'm a dork like that, but when they give us badges. We've surveyed our parents to hear, what do you want from us? What fundraisers do you want us to do? What events do you want to see? And we took that feedback into consideration as we planned our year. We have budgeted $55,000 out of our funds to make sure that we're dedicated to cultural enrichment activities. So whether it's the author visits, science, field trips, grants for teachers to use within classroom, that's what we've committed from a budget perspective. We've applied for some New York State grants. We didn't win them, unfortunately, boo-hoo, but we're trying to get some feedback to earn them next year. So thank you.
I will say we tried.
We tried.
Nevers that a PTA for elementary has tried to put in for a grant. So we're, a step ahead, and we put in for 2, but we'll get them.
We'll get them.
again.
We're going to be consistent. Yeah. We also purchased movie licenses. So now when teachers show a movie in their classroom, if they choose to do so during some of those downtimes, the district is protected. And so we made that investment in all of you and our teachers. And so far, we've had some great events, Chalk the Walk Picture Day, Fall Festival, we did a BV Beautification Day. We've united with colors with the middle school and the high school to celebrate and to bring awareness of breast cancer, unity, and kindness day. And we've done some great fundraising activities that have brought some additional income in, besides the grants that each of our PTAs provided to us to give us startup funds. So this highlights about just under 50% of the students came to the Fall Festival. So we have some beautiful pictures here, and thank you those families for allowing us to post your children's pictures.
It was a great day. So beautiful. All right, some upcoming events that we have. In November, we have silent auction coming up by our chair, Mariella here. Auction starts this Friday and bidding opens at 5 p.m. and promptly closes at 9. We have gifts, beauty, gift cards, and most importantly, experiences within the building. And then the beautification committee is heading over to Furnace Wood Saturday to do their first cleanup. We just had our 3v1 this past Friday. Next slide.
So if you want to come or participate in the auction, you are more than welcome.
Breakfast with Frosty is coming back again for our 5th year. And we're, eager to get that going. And we started the process. We've invited high school kids for volunteer hours and the community. So we're hoping to make it a little bigger and have a little more enrollment since now we're all one united. We have some other events like movie night. We'll be hosting at BV and Furnace Woods this time around since we just had our fall festival at Frenchie. So this way our parents can kind of visit all the buildings, see what they look like. Today we started a voting ballot for our elementary kids. They were able to vote on 3 movies and the winner will be shown at both schools. So that was kind of exciting. We tied it into November elections. Holiday Shop is our next big fundraiser. We've run them in 2 buildings. This year, we're going to run them in all 3 at the same time. So this should be interesting to see how, all the kids come home with all the stuff.
And so this is our final slide. So what are our challenges? What do you need to be aware of? So for us, it really comes down to answering the call from our principals, teachers, staff. What do they want? And how do we make sure that it's equitable across the building? So what we're doing at FGL, there's something very similar in the experience happening at BV and at Furnace Wood. So you can't just say yes to one building and grant them all their wishes as much as we want to. Our pocketbook does have a cap to it. So that has definitely been one thing that we're slower to move on to commit to a yes, like, yes, we can fund that. We have to think and then we have to see and then approach the other 2, maybe principals about, this grade's asking for this trip. What about these 2 buildings and these grades?
We don't do that at the middle school and high school like that, where.
For all 3.
No, it's kind of what the principals, what the teachers want.
Principal.
Yeah, but it's what the teachers want. So if the 7th grade teachers come to us and wanted a program, we didn't go say the 6th and 8th grade, oh, they're gonna bring a program in, so now you have to bring a program in. It has to be what works for the.
Yeah, we're just making sure that we're spending some of the same money on each grade and everybody kind of has an experience.
Well, of course, but you don't have, but every.
But it's
experience
not
has a
like you're
different-
not gonna get it with this
Yeah, but
grade.
every single experience has a different kind of price tag on it.
Right, yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So you can't, it never kind of worked that way. Like, there was a thing the 4th grade brought in that was like 3 times more than the kindergartners was.
Right.
So.
We have to be careful with that with New York State. We do.
Nope.
We do.
It's about experiences and not about the price tag. PTA is very clear about it's the experiences and offering the experiences and offering the opportunities. It's not tied to a dollar.
But to have the opportunities being offered to all those every child within the building.
Right now, we're focusing on giving all the buildings the opportunity.
Yeah.
Sometimes we still have kids who've never been to the Bronx Zoo.
Mhm.
We want to give that experience.
We've also
for them.
3 years of
Yeah.
COVID.
The confusion in communication, we've heard, is one of our challenges. So much communication That's also what we hear and see from our families. It's too many emails. There's redundancy in emails, not just PTA emails, district emails. So we're bringing you some of your concerns from our membership. The building events versus all elementary events. Do we always do all? Do we have to, can we do some building specific just for the BV second and third graders? Can we make an experience for just FPGL where BV and Furnace Woods aren't upset? So we're battling, and I don't, battling is not the best word, but we're being very methodical.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
yes.
And also too, like, we've now looked, okay, so we know when the superintendent's sending out his email, we know when the building's sending out their email, when we have a class parent sending out email, so it's usually towards all the end of the week, so we decided to start sending our emails on Wednesdays, so this way we're breaking it up and we're not dumping everything at the same time. So that's how, in our way, we can kind of try and solve that and make it a little better.
We have not a diverse slate of volunteers where, mostly female ran in, groups. So we'd love to see some men out there helping us as best as possible. There are a few, there's some, what I call the knight in shining armor. The husbands who come through. Thanks, honey. But honestly, we'd love to have some more diversification. And that's what we're hoping to happen this year. It's been an ask from our parents or from the female constituents. How do we get our men involved so that there's representation for children to see in terms of the events that we host? And we don't have one place to host all elementary. And while we'd love to use the high school, because I heard that could be an offering, we also know that we will come not first, but there's going to be priorities around athletics. So we may get bumped, and that's something we can't chance if we are going to have a potential of being bumped. So we don't have one place to bring all our elementary students together, but we're trying. And then the C, it's the building, fields, and playgrounds. We need a lot of love and care across all three. Logistics for families. Our academy launched this week, and some were reserved to jump in and do it because they weren't sure how they can pick up one child from the bus stop and then make it to a building in time to pick up that child after an academy class. So that has been an issue for our families. The transportation, whether it's too many kids on a bus or is my child really arriving at school for the half an hour playtime at FGL and BV? I don't know. I don't know if they're starting at 9 or at Furnace Woods, are they really starting at 8:30? That's a concern for some parents. And then the redundancy on emails across our group as well as the district. So I know that we can all work together, but we wanted to bring our challenges. If you have any feedback or recommendations, and we will definitely take what you said, Erica, into consideration around the experiences that we planned, and then what we're hearing and seeing.
Yeah, and just a little more on the transportation. We did hear that it is getting a little better. The kids are getting there earlier, but not early enough. Some of the kids are there a lot longer. The custodians are getting back later. It's very loud on the buses. So we know, we've been listening that there's monitors or chauffeurs being hired. There's a process. Is that not happening anymore? Just looking at me.
I'm not answering.
I got a question for all of you. Like, we've been listening to board of ed meetings. We know that it came up. And again, we care about our kids on the bus. We care about the bus drivers who have to turn around and, tell a kid to sit down or be quiet. It's somewhat of a safety issue at this point, and I know we can't fix it overnight, but what's being done so we can kind of get it to where it needs to be.
Sure. So, for example, yesterday, Liz was training 5 new employees, substitute chauffeurs, so they can go right away into the, when we need them into the buses. So that's the first part. We're working on it. Like I mentioned to you, we had last week a meeting with Liz, the superintendent, and we're working on it. It's just, it takes a little bit of time. The issue of hiring people, they have to be trained, they have to be approved by civil service. So a bureaucracy. That's what it is, but, I'll have to ask Liz when are these 5 people that she was training yesterday are ready to go into the process, and I'll let you know, because I don't know what else it's needed.
So can I ask, are these positions posted
Oh,
for the community to see that?
we post them everywhere. We post them in OLAs, we post. Usually we post, and I don't know these particular ones, but usually we post in the Penny Savers, in the local newspapers. So yes, it's not like I tell the drivers, hey, if you have a friend, tell them that we're hiring. No, we really advertise outside in all the ways that we can. We know how difficult it is now. So again, we were able to find 5 people. It's a lot, because we're talking people that are going to be making probably $25 an hour, 2 hours a day. So it's not like, it's a permanent position. It's for someone with specific skills, needs, and everything, because they have to wake up early at 7 in the morning, be home by 9, and then again come back at 3. So, but we have 5 that we are trained.
So are these individuals, because they're not custodians?
No,
They're
these
just
are,
on the bus, they're not, are they
this
driving?
is what we call them chauffeurs.
They're not on the chauffeur.
They are called, well, it's like we will have to train them, because they also going to be able to drive the small buses. I mean, the Suburbans and the 32 passenger buses. So by law, by our union contract, only CSEA members can work in our buses or get paid. There was discussions why we cannot do high school kids or anything like that. So, and again, I think that 5 will solve some of the problems, maybe not all of them, but still, we continue to advertise in OLAF, and I'll check if it's also in Penny Savers.
And has the rerouting, I know some stops, some buses had reroutes, has that been helping? Did that cost?
Yeah, everything is a cost, without any doubt. That's I was calculating today by coincidence the cost of splitting the bus for the 2 buses in the afternoon. It's a cost of about $15,000 a year. So safety is first, so it doesn't matter, but we'll find the money. But yeah, it's not for free.
Any questions?
Any for us?
Don't come hard at us. I'm scared of that one.
I'm just wondering what you see, you've listed challenge as legacy trends, and I'm assuming that means traditions, like, do you have some examples of what those might be and how we might bring them over?
Like
or not?
traditions, dances, certain buildings had names for dances, which is fine. How to hold those dances in each building, kind of going through, are siblings allowed or older siblings allowed? How many do we have a year? Do we do them in each building? Do we do 1 or 2 in each building? So that's kind of something. So with the movie night, like I said, we had the fall festival at Frank G, so now we can have a movie night at the other 2 buildings, and then kind of reverse and go back to Frank G and do a movie night and then do something else at the other. So we're wanting to do new things, but there are asks for traditions like dances, fairs.
And the problem is we can't do them all.
Yeah.
That's we don't have, well, you saw all that manpower, and it's amazing that we have that many people standing up to say, yes, I'll volunteer, I'll help. it's in different types of committees and roles, or it's in certain components. And so for our executive committee, which is a pretty large executive committee of 11 individuals, to do everything, we're volunteers. And we do, some of us have full-time jobs. Some of us have other curriculum, like extracurricular projects that we work on too, that are community-based. And it's just, it's hard to say yes to all the traditions and all the new stuff that we have to bring in or try to bring in to create some unity. So it's just, that's where those challenges come in, is we don't want to offend anyone to say no, but I know we need to say no at times. And it's okay for us to say no. And I hope people say that's all right that they have to pass on this one, but they're taking into consideration our feedback and how can they look at it in the future if possible. It's our first year. It's growing pains. We have growing pains with Princeton plan. We're having growing pains with one elementary unit.
And it also has to do with schedules, because a lot of our families have kids in multiple buildings. So if we're doing an event, you know, will they all come to that one event? But if they can't come to all that event, do we not have a lot of participation if we're holding it at 2 different times in 2 different buildings? So, you know, we'll offer it, we'll run them, and those that can come can come. It's not like we won't. But those are some challenges that we're hearing back. You know, families have sports, they have other things that they're doing outside of school. So, but again, we have 1,200 elementary students now, you know. 1,031 vacations. It went up, see?
Are you gonna do the Ashokan trip for the 5th graders?
That's all you.
I do not.
We just had a conversation.
Yeah, we just had a conversation. We have dates on the calendar. We are looking to see if we can get any cheaper rate, because we do have 185 5th grade students. From my understanding, the trip will be broken up into 2. So
Why?
an A and B, because Ashokan can't accommodate all of the kids.
They can only
with all the
accommodate,
staff.
I think, 225 or 220 with staff.
Yeah.
We redid this research a few years ago. That's why I know this. They can't accommodate that many plus the staff needed at the same time. Was an issue a few years ago too.
And it's probably like a few head count over, but
It is, and
we have to break it up.
And the good news is, in a couple of years, when our numbers go down, they probably can accommodate, but probably not this year or next year.
So, and also the 5th grade is kind of starting from scratch. So thank you to those who bought pies, bought baked goods. And hopefully we'll be able to do everything, you know, we need to do for
Do a coin
5th grade.
fundraiser?
Huh?
Are you gonna do a coin fundraiser?
Yes.
Yes.
Coin fund.
That's a tradition.
January. That's a
That's a
tradition.
tradition.
And that's another thing. Some traditions of fundraisers that we're doing, like breakfast with Frosty, has always been, you know, an elementary kind of cultural enrichment fundraiser. We looked at some of the fundraisers that 5th graders did, like the pie fundraiser, the plant sales, the coin. So those are 3 that are gonna continue on along with others. Some PTA run things, you know, we all had a fair. So instead of having one big fair, you know, and 3 of them, we did kind of, we're calling them festivals now instead of fairs. So we'll have one in, you know, the spring, the fall, winter, spring, and just things like that. So we're kind of redoing things, but making it so we can accommodate everyone and making sure that everyone can attend. That's it. Right? Yeah. So yes, Ashokan is on as far as I know. So if we don't get it, I think maybe it'll be lost forever.
Was that strictly
Okay.
financial? Was that strictly financial, the Ashokan topic? Okay.
One
that's
reason.
okay.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of them. So, you know, parent portion goes up and the staff count goes up. So, yeah. So we're still
All right.
looking at numbers and hopefully we'll be okay.
What is the cost per head to go to Ashoka
It's about $300
per person, including
Per student.
staff? Or is the staff,
like $298.
so it's 300 a head and then does the staff goes free? So
It's in that number.
Yeah,
200
in
kids
that
times
number.
300 bucks, that's your number, 60
Yeah.
grand to go. Okay. And what is the parent contribution of that typically?
In the past, it's been, I believe, 70, then it went up to 100. So now we'll probably bring it to 125.
And is there a mechanism to support families that might look for some assistance to participate without
Yeah.
having the opportunity to do something on their own?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Jeremy, so you know by law, any curriculum and instruction program has to be paid by the district. So since this is a district curriculum or instruction program, we can only ask families to give money as a donation, basically. It's on a donation basis, and the rest, the district has to pay for it. So to give you an example, for example, when I worked in Amityville, very poor school district, we had to buy the tennis shoes for anyone that wanted to be in a sport. So that's by law. So we've always here the PTAs have worked very hard to get everyone on board. In this particular case, Antonietta and I had a conversation Monday, on how the district can work and how to make the shopping happen.
Right, any other questions?
I have a question. Sorry. I think it would be really helpful if the PTA collaborated with the district Fail or Not newsletter so that the information had a little bit of PTA information in it as well as district, so that parents were getting one source of information. I don't know if that's an option or not.
Or another recommendation would be the 3 buildings send out a communication, let's just make it one. So it might be longer, but the parents go to their FGL section, their Curtis Switch section, or their BV and their Curtis Switch section, and it's one email from the district, from a centralized group for the building purposes, and then Fail or Not could be something like the cherry or the
Are
spring.
you talking about the weekly emails that parents get from each building?
That's,
Making it into
there are
one.
too many emails, the redundancy, because they're getting, or sometimes they don't even know where it's coming from, or it's repetitive within it. So how do you streamline that? What we're recommending is if we could contribute to the knot and put some PTA information in there. It's up to all the districts if they want us to. We're happy to, but we're also happy to continue to send ours on Wednesday. And that way it's, parents are staying PTA focused in one avenue and then curriculum in building focus from their principals.
I'd love to see all 5 buildings as a link to the email Joe sends out. So that people that don't have kids in a building can still see what's happening, and there's updates that come out of the high school for newsletters that are of interest. So it'll cut back because everyone looks forward to the Friday update. And I don't get a middle school, a Furnace Woods, or a high school, for example. It'd be great to have all 5 in one place, and it takes out all that redundancy message.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for waiting until forever to speak, and honestly. Thank you for taking on this particular year as PTA board and everybody that's involved, because this year I know is going to be the most difficult of all of them, and I'm sure you're facing a lot of challenges. So we really do appreciate you, the community, the board, the school, all of us. And thank you for coming. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Okay. So we talked about Ashokan and the cost, and that is a great segue back to Enrique to talk to the board for public consumption and the budget development calendar. The board has the calendar. The document was posted online as well. It's a series of target dates that we plan for based on a number of state education mandates and decisions that need to be made by particular dates. And then what we do is we look at our school board meetings and divide up our cost centers into and dedicate them to different board meetings so that throughout the winter, early winter months, we can walk the community through our budget proposals. So with that, I'll turn it over to Enrique.
Thank you. Believe it or not, we're starting a new budget season. We just started the year, so here we are again. First of all, I want to say that I think before this is charming. Charming for all the work or everything, and I take the apple. I want to say that this is charming. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Carl.
So today we're going to review the budget calendar. If you have any questions, any comments, any changes that you want to do to it, then we can do it in the next 2 weeks. But on November 30, we have to adopt it. And this is a resolution that we adopt. So any changes that you are interested in making, let me know, and we'll make them. This is the way it's been done at least 15 years since I've been here. That doesn't mean that it's the correct way. It's just the way it's been. So the first meeting will be on January 4th. Basically, I'm going to talk again about the budget review. I will bring a projection for the next several years, and then the expensive part of the budget, the Board of Education budget, the administration budget, and central office. That's what I will discuss on January 4th. Then January 18th, special education and athletics. What we try to do is athletics is very simple, special education is a lot more complex, so try to put the simple with the complex. On February 1st, we'll do Anthony, operation, lease, transportation, and I'll discuss that. Then February 15th, the important one, K-12 program, and then usually we invite the free library to come and tell us about their budget. So we do it together. Then we have several deadlines that we have to comply. The first one is in March 1st. Then on March 8th, we have the technology program. By March 22nd, we have a very solid budget. We'll revise the whole budget. We will make the changes that you believe are needed in our budget. And then by March 22nd, that's going to be, I'm sorry, that's March 22nd, then April 1st. There's more legal things that we have to do. By April 12th, you approve the budget. I need to do some filings like the property tax report, the tax cap, etc. But that's behind the scenes. Then on April 17th is the 30 days prior to the election when Parliament received a petition for the candidates. April 25, we meet, we vote for, you vote for the BOCES budget. On May 3, we do the public hearing of the final budget. And then on May 5, we send the budget to the whole community so they can vote on May 16. If the budget passes, we accept the budget and everyone is happy. And if not, we go to a free vote on June 4th. Again, this is nothing new. It's been 16 years there. Maybe you're tired of seeing for 16 years the same thing every year and every year. You want to make some changes. It's up to you, you know. Not because it worked 16 years ago or the last 16 years, it has to work now. And I'm just saying, if there's any comments, any ideas, we are very open to discuss.
I would just like a comment. It's always bothered me that we do the official public hearing, and I understand that's a legal thing that we have to do the public hearings. But for community members that, as they're listening in on these board meetings and have questions or concerns, what's the best way for community members to reach out as we're developing our budget before it's approved?
Actually, there's a whole, every year there's a whole area in our website that is budget development. There's an email that we do for the budget, and I don't remember, it's budget, budget, the year, but it has an email and an account, and people can send emails. And I don't know what is it that we can do, but last year, Joe and I had about what, 20 community meetings, and we didn't have one person, either in Zoom, either in person. We did it in the morning, we did it in the afternoon, we did it at night. I don't know if, you know, usually when people come, it's just to complain, and we have nothing to complain, so they were happy. That's what we want to think happened last year. So, but, you know, it was like, I can't believe that no one came and asked questions or anything like that. So, I don't know what to say. What else we can do to bring people in and get them involved in the board? So definitely my feeling is that something has to be done after what happened.
And the budget book, just so you know, I know you know, Ally, but we published the budget book, which is basically every account code of what the anticipated next year's budget is for those account codes. So, you know, there's a extra layer, whether there are questions or not, there's an extra layer of transparency to say, okay, how much money are we spending on athletic equipment? You know, and what is that athletic equipment? All of these presentations, what Greg does after the board meeting is he splices out each of the, for example, athletics presentation or transportation, creates its own video, and we put those on the website. So you don't have to watch a 3-hour board meeting to you know, get a 20-minute update on athletics. So we try to get as much info out in advance, and maybe Enrique's right, maybe that's why we didn't have any customers last year. We very rarely do. But you know, we make ourselves as available as possible, and you know, knock on wood, it's been 15 years of budget success. So
Thank you.
I have one question. When we look at program budgets, I see special ed, I see athletics, transportation, that I don't see one broken out for arts and music. I'm sure it rolls up into one of the others, but is that
part of K-12 program budget? That's part of Margaret's budget. I don't know, maybe you want to separate and have two, and maybe, you know, curriculum and instruction, and then athletics is separate. But
why do we break out athletics, but we don't break out arts and music?
Again, number one, maybe because we haven't changed it for 20 years. And that's why it happened 20 years.
So I'm suggesting 16 years of the same thing. Can we break out arts and music this year?
Sure, we can.
Okay.
That's a very good idea. The only question there, Corey, is we have an athletic director that is responsible for athletics. We don't have a music director that is responsible for music. And we don't have an arts director that is responsible for arts. So yes, we can do it.
Should we?
That's forward.
Do you want my 2 cents?
Yeah.
Okay. Happy to share it, because you know I'm a music and arts person all the way.
Yeah.
So I think that athletics needs to be separate because it's a separate budget. We transport kids everywhere, a lot, all over the place, and we compete against different areas. What I think we need to do is actually just ask that Margaret highlight it further in her, which she presents to us, right? With that, I think that would be a solution, because if you're forgetting, you've seen it how many times? We obviously have to highlight it separately, but I don't think it needs to be a separate presentation. Because athletics is this huge umbrella that's outside of, not of programming, of our regular daily.
I think it's just, I feel like arts and music should get the same attention and focus that athletics does.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think it should be something that is seen as something lesser than athletics. And I think maybe it's more about visibility, and maybe it's just because of my background in arts and music that, you know, I love sports too. I love sports. But I really think that we should give equal attention to both. And it just from a visibility standpoint, it just seems like athletics has got a Hall of Fame, athletics has a big budget, athletics makes a presentation, and arts and music doesn't get the same attention. So maybe we do need a district-wide art and music director and someone who can focus on that and look at our program across the board and how kids progress, you know, as part of the curriculum. Maybe that's what we could be doing.
So in terms of highlighting exactly what Erica said, that's not a difficult task. What we do during the program, the K-12 program budget, we break our staff down by function, by school. So we're able to identify, you know, what our outlay is to support program by staff, by equipment codes, supplies. So we could very easily do that.
I was just gonna suggest, from being in the audience last year and hearing the presentations, by the time you're at the end for audience comments and the slides are gone, and there's so many numbers on them, and you're trying to take notes, you get up to the podium and you completely forget. So maybe after the presentation, we could have audience comments and questions.
Sure.
So you still have the presentation visible and they can ask a question.
Oh, about that.
About the
whole
presentation,
agenda.
about the budget presentation that was up there,
Like that segment.
that segment.
Well, that information is available online before the meeting, right?
Well, they
People
might-
print out the information and bring it if they need to.
Yeah, typically our process is we have a finance committee, an ad hoc committee of the board that will review these presentations in advance, will give suggestions or, you know, focus on this, less on that. You know, we're hearing from the community, they want to know more about laptops as opposed to smartboards, whatever. That committee, years ago, we tried to get that group to meet the week before, so that the presentations were updated and posted on Friday. We had scheduling issues and then the pandemic. So that group was meeting over the last couple of years on the Monday of the board meeting. So we would post a draft, we would post a draft presentation. That group would meet on Monday. It would be revised on Tuesday morning in advance of Wednesday's meeting.
Okay, so that's not, so to Stephanie's point, like if there are revisions to it, there should be hard copies here available for people. Right?
Sure.
If
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
easily available online to print out first.
And I think we used to have them, but definitely, if you ask me, I totally agree. You have a presentation with so many numbers that you even get confused to want to get an answer right there. So probably for the budget season, we make a little bit of change of comments about the budget presentation.
I just think you would get more community involvement. I could be wrong.
It's
transparent. They have the ability to talk.
Well, I think
we can try,
because we have agenda items that they can talk about, non-agenda items they can talk about. I assume that would be considered agenda items where they could make comments, right? So I think they have the opportunity. The question that you're asking is, should we make more opportunity during the budget presentation?
No, maybe you just put it on the agenda, the presentation comes right before it. So it's fresh and it could stay up on the screen, or you could bring it back on the screen for them.
Yeah.
Is
Is everyone feeling comfortable with the timing? And the things where they are?
Still want arts and music directors.
We won't get an argument there.
More money in facilities, so. One thing, can we maybe do the week before, like, we were meeting for finance, just say if
Yeah.
it was operations and maintenance, it was the week of, why don't we, if we just start a week earlier, then we'll be a week ahead. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Finance
you
committee,
guys
no?
will have to be
No, I
prepared a week
understand.
earlier.
One of the problems, and obviously, you know, we can do it, but one of the problems is that sometimes we're putting even new information that we're getting on Monday. So that's why the other reason why we switched it to Monday, because we used to do it Friday, and then suddenly Monday and Tuesday, there's new information, we have to change everything, but we can try. Again, for me, the presentations will happen pretty a month in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then whoever's making the presentation has time to implement whatever changes or feedback they get, and they're not
Yeah,
rushing
we
to.
can try
I mean,
the
we're not posting things that then we're changing them, and
Right.
it looks like we're confused, and that it's just not transparent, but I mean, and we do budget updates, so even if something changes, you recap, right? Like, you do that
Yeah.
constantly. I mean, you're gonna have to draw a line, and
Yeah.
we'll have to
That's what I'm
explain it.
saying. We can try the Thursday before, like, so if you have any changes, I make the changes on Friday morning, and then we post it
Yeah.
Friday afternoon. If there's changes during that week, well, we need to change it again, and we can say new information came Monday. Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, we should probably pick our first date.
Yeah.
Our first date, the finance coming. All right. Cool.
January.
So we'll bring it back for approval in 2 weeks.
Great, so we will bring it back for approval in 2 weeks.
We're punching.
Well, you know, it's almost 10 o'clock.
I know. Agenda items.
Okay, anything else that needs to fall under that one? All right, do we have anybody signed up for audience comments on event agenda items? Wow. All right, so do we have any committee reports? What committees have been happening?
Facilities.
We talked about the EPC.
We have the audit committee.
We covered that the last time.
Yeah, well, I think we're finalizing that. We've asked the auditors to do a little more work. I don't think we talked about the specific areas, right, but that's gonna happen.
Right.
A little deeper dive than would be normal in a
Top secret
area.
And then the other things is just that, there was a high school PTSA meeting this week on Monday night here. And, they're working on a lot of great things, but most importantly is their career fair, which is on November 29th. And all high school students will be welcome to that, but they're looking for, professionals to come talk to students. They're looking for basically any job they want to share with kids. There's a sign up form, show interest on their Facebook page. Or you can email the high school PTSA, which I think is it hh.pta@henhudschools.org, and Rebecca will help you with that. There's a SEPTA meeting next Tuesday here. It's hybrid and virtual. And, speaking of arts and music, our concert season's starting. So that's on the district calendar. And I'm just giving a shameless plug for that because like volleyball, it's a great, we have great concerts coming up.
Great, I mean, we can't really update anything on the PTA, the elementary school PTA meeting, because they did their own job tonight. Anybody have any?
Well, I guess we could just remind the community that we're offering our next
Yeah.
Forum, good idea.
Community forum.
That's right. So a note went out to the community today. Thank you, Jen, for organizing. At our next board meeting, which is on November 30th, 2 weeks from today, the board, at least 2 to 3 trustees will make themselves available from 5:30 to 6:30, depending on how many people sign up. There is a sign up sheet, so we do ask that you sign up. We're not limiting anything, but based on how many people sign up, we'll determine kind of how we break out into different rooms and who attends what and what time. So please check that out. Are we gonna put that on social media too? I don't know if that's happened yet, but there was a letter today and hopefully social media in the next couple of days. So yeah, thanks for the reminder. Anything else?
I have follow-up questions from last week.
3 weeks ago.
Last meeting, thanks. When we were talking about the TA expense and the budget line for substitutes, I had asked if you could share what we've spent on substitute teachers, because naturally, if we're using the 140 for the TAs and saying that we did it in lieu of sub, I'm guessing the sub budget would be expense to date would be 0. And I'm just curious if that's what is trending.
Unfortunately not, Sharon. For PB, we spent $17,000 so far. For Franchi Lindsay,
Kids you weren't paying.
You don't need coffee.
For Franchi Lindsay, 32,000.
32?
32. For Furnace Woods, 11. So far this year, unfortunately, and it's basically the same as last year. We spent about so far in the first 48 days of school, because this is as of for last payroll, we have spent $60,000. If we assume that the trend will continue, we're talking about spending about $225,000 for the rest of the year.
So
That's just elementary.
Actually, it's incredible, but the high school and middle school are almost at 0. Because,
That's my next question.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to check,
Okay.
but they were very little compared to the elementary school.
So I think we need to revise that presentation from last week that we used the $140,000 budget for elementary subs to cover part of that TA cost, because clearly we're trending over that by quite a bit. You can't borrow the money from the same bucket, right? It's either a TA cost or a sub cost. So it's one or the other.
Can I ask a question? Because we've had some teachers out. Is that including their sub pay as well as not the teacher salary? See what I'm saying? So if the teachers weren't in and they weren't getting paid, then that's the teacher salary would have been impacted, not the sub salary.
No, if the teacher is out
For long term.
for long term,
It's your sick bank.
it's no.
No.
For long term, it's very simple. If a teacher is out, let's say Jeremy's out and Erica comes for 6 months and Erica comes into his place, I pay Erica from his budget.
Correct. So if I resign from a position, that's an open position. It's not sub money. It's money from that teacher's salary that was budgeted. Erica
Okay.
takes my position. She's taking my old salary to be paid. So I just hope that that's reflected in that, because I know in a couple positions, we've had that in the elementary level, as well as leave replacements.
But that's what I'm saying. In that particular case, Erica is a long-term teacher now for the year. If you resign and Erica takes your place, Erica is going to take your place for 7 months,
But my salary, not out of the sub pay.
out of your salary.
Exactly, okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's that number.
And so.
No, this is only subs.
Okay, can I ask,
Day-to-day subs.
the sub pay that you're talking about, is that the incremental that the TA gets to?
Plus any subs that we get,
Subs.
then it's.
The high school has subs, because I had a
Yes.
person out, so there's gotta be a sub cost in high school.
Differential.
This has nothing to do, yeah, it's a differential.
I mean, yeah, and there is a general, I think it's 150,000 a year, right? But Jeremy's point is just that we can't use it to pay the TA if we're paying without the sub.
Yeah, we said that we hired all these TAs so we didn't have to hire subs because we couldn't get them. And that was why we were trying to take the cost of subs and not make it look, but utilize that bucket of money to reduce the impact of making an experience that continued from one year to the next appear to be less financially impactful because we already spent the money. But now that money's gone and now we're incurring a bigger number than we even budgeted for in terms of sub pay. So I think that at the end of the day, was a concern last week or last meeting I had. I just wanted to touch on it. It seems we're trending at a rate higher than we expected in terms of our budget. So I think it would be appropriate to let the sub cost carry and put that 140 back on the TA expense versus netting it out of there. Or we can put the sub cost into that line in terms of implementation expense. Either way, it would appear to be less financially burdensome if we use the 140 and not the trending 60, right? Okay, second question. Last week, and we got a report, I think, yesterday on the additional busing costs, which was right, the extra pay to the drivers for the longer runs, which was about 50K, and was it 15K? Or no, it was 5K for the additional bus drivers for the 2 new routes. Am I remembering that right on that sheet? But I don't think I'm sorry.
That was 15.
That was 15 for the 2 drivers.
Yeah.
And then did we ever quantify, it didn't indicate on that report, so I want to make sure. So that's 65K additional busing cost from last week's presentation. Did we quantify the additional mileage that the 2 new buses would run, what the cost of that would be, and then also what the
Yes.
additional carbon footprint is as a result of that?
So I'm taking into account, give me a second. If you remember, we talked about that it was about 88,000 miles in addition. Now with these 2 new buses is 92,105. So if we multiply that by 3.45, what was the average?
Yep.
That's 317,762. And if you remember, that was like 295. I don't remember the exact.
So it's another
number.
20K additional?
No, probably a little bit less, but
15.
Yeah.
So that would be 30,000 additional, basically, to run those 2 new bus
I
routes.
have the
15.
final number.
Okay.
I have the
And
final-
then I guess so we can extrapolate that same net difference for. So it's probably it puts us now, instead of being just under 13, well, what were we, 13.8?
The
Metric tons, the
CO2,
CO2, yeah, so that probably puts us just above
we
14.
were at 13.2 and now we will be at 14.2. The number I remember is, we talked about the equivalent of, I think we said 322 million straws. Now we are up to 357.
Okay. And then my last.
I have a question about the transportation. So I know that our transportation budget increased this year, in the budget that was approved in May. What I'd be interested to know is, how many of these costs have been planned and accounted for, or what are we over budget in our transportation?
Very good question. So you have an idea from the total expense in gas and diesel that we had last year, we budgeted an additional $100,000. So that's because last year, the gas was a lot cheaper than what it
Right.
is today, and because of the extra mile. So all that definitely is budgeted for. And so far, we are doing very well in the gas and diesel account.
But do you have any information on personnel? As far as, are we paying people more than we budgeted, I guess is what I'm saying. Like we budgeted a certain amount. Was
No,
provided-
because remember that all these people are contractual. So we pay them the same amount if they are driving or if they are cleaning.
Okay, so,
Overtime.
just to summarize. So we are within what we budgeted and was
Yes.
approved by the community last year.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to
Definitely.
clarify. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, thank you, Jerry.
Sure. And then my last question, is something that I wanted to get clarity on, and I definitely not for today, but one of those like, can we get it the next time? I think Stephanie's asked it multiple times. I'd like to get an understanding of those ESSER funds and how we use them. I know we've talked about different facility changes for air monitoring or filters or something along those lines, but tonight, there was a lot of conversation about learning loss and all of these things, and that money was also supposed to be, the idea of that money was to assist kids and gain. I just want to understand how we utilize those funds specifically. And
Yeah.
it's been like a swirling conversation that I think we just need some finality on.
We had several conversations. I don't remember the exact amount, but about $150,000 were due for filters, protection for COVID, filters, HVAC, everything. The rest,
Some technology.
some technology.
Yeah, it was in three buckets. Learning loss, technology, facilities, for lack of a better term. Those were and there were three different funding sources. So there was ESSER, there was Cresser,
There's a million.
and then ARP. So a bunch of different acronyms. Some was state money, some was federal money to the state, and they all had different criteria, basically like a menu that you could pick from. But we can break that down over 3 years or over 2 years what the spend was. We had maybe 2 weeks to do a community input. We put a survey out, what would you like the money on? And we got things from, tutoring to a art kiln to, a new field, those sort of things. But we had to send our plan to the state, had to get approved, and, the state asked for more information. I know Anthony, this year, a lot of those resources, and again, one of those acronyms are spent on facilities, not improving facilities, but the health and safety.
Yeah, yeah.
So we can break that down. We can get something out.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I think that the deep dive into the finances leaves us with a tremendous elephant in the room. And I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to weigh in here. In December, we're expecting metrics and baselines and all of this hard work from the administration. And I first wanted to kind of get a temperature on the board on what more you may need or what avenues you may want to go in terms of, if we aren't meeting the financial savings that the Princeton plan had hoped for and that we all hoped for, is the board looking to find more savings? Is the board looking to make changes to the plan? Is the board looking to make any kind of shift? Because if we are, and if the trustees need more information, we have to start to have those kinds of conversations. Putting those off, while easier than having hard conversations, is not going to benefit the students. So I just wanted to speak out to all of you. We don't get to talk about these things unless we're here together in public. And I want to make sure that if there's anything that anybody needs or any feelings or thoughts or direction, that we bring it here to the board table.
I just
And
want
we
to,
can go around.
I'm just going to say, I'm just going to ask for what I asked for because talking about what we need, I had said the last time that what we really need is to make sure, to see where we are with our goals and our expectations financially. We need to see what we had intended, where we were and where we are now, like projected versus actual. So if that's what you're asking me if I need,
You mean like a summary?
yeah, like a one
We're
sheeter,
talking about finances.
finance.
Okay.
That's what, if you're asking what I
Yeah.
need to see, that's what I'd like to see that.
Me too, but I'd like it to account for the asterisks that we've sort of created over the last two meetings, like, for example, the 140 and TA cost that we chalked up with some expense that clearly can't go into that. Or the additional busing cost.
You're asking what we would need to go forward to design our budget for next year?
No, so what I'm asking is, given the fact that Princeton Plan was a policy and it implemented policy for the purpose of saving money, and there's minimal savings, what does the board think about that moving forward? Are we just happy with status quo? Are we happy with the plan exactly as is? Do we see ways to make changes? I mean, we're going down a road of getting back a building condition survey, which may tell us that we need to outfit the buildings more properly for kindergartners, or first graders, or fifth graders. And before we go down all of these paths, right? Are there changes that the trustees feel would be important? And if they feel that way, you know, we need to be discussing it as a group. That's my concern, is that, you know, like, we went on tours of the buildings. There's many things that we can all say that this is not great for a fifth grader, right? So are we gonna explore making those changes? If we're not saving money because our buses are driving around and around and around, is there a way? You know, does the board want to look into how we can reduce that? I mean, like, these are just scenarios I'm just throwing out. If you want me to speak on my opinion, this is disappointing that we changed the whole elementary school system for almost no savings.
Are we going around the table?
Sure, we can go around, but I'm volunteering to speak. And to me, something has to change. And I rely on my fellow trustees to talk about ideas and what their views are. Because there clearly needs to be improvement. We can't have these buses driving. I mean, it's unaffordable. We can't have custodians out of buildings. We need them in buildings. I mean, we could go on forever. So anyway, that was my point. That's the point here, is that I think that we can't have these conversations, right? Because as a group, we have to have them publicly. So I'm asking everybody to kind of just weigh in on their thoughts.
The summary would be good. My largest concern is probably transportation. I don't know if there's something that we could look at differently now that we have a lot more time and more knowledge about what did or didn't work. I mean, I also think an elephant in the room is many people supported Princeton Plan not because of money. So that's the truth. So for me, it was never about money, because I never really thought $2 million was anything worth saving. Sorry, but I do agree we put out an expectation. So I do think we need to summarize it and figure out if we can make any money back. I don't know if that means we go back to the way we were. That's not what I'm saying. It may just mean changes in something else we're doing. And then as far as the building condition survey, I mean, our buildings are in dire need of upgrades anyways. I mean, I just certainly want to make sure that this is the way we're going to keep it if we're going to make facilities changes to support those. So I think we need to travel that road a little bit more before we decide that. I do think there's other facilities upgrades we can make aside from what building is what age group, just behind the wall stuff that hasn't had any attention to.
So, I wholeheartedly agree with Jen and with Erica and with Jeremy too. You know, the reason that I voted for Princeton plan was not just because of finances. It was the equity opportunities for the students. It was for what we were promised from the administration, that over time there would be additional social and emotional benefits for the kids, educational benefits for the kids, opportunities to have programs that we never were able to have before because we had 3 different schools that if we wanted a program, we had to have 3 separate teachers or there were travel issues or whatever the case was. So I want to see, and this is what I've been asking for a long time, and I know that they're working on it, is the success metrics. There's finance, there's transportation, there's social and emotional, there's diversity and equity. There are a number of different metrics that I would want to see some we can measure now, which might be the finances. To Erica's point, I want to see what was originally promised and what we thought we were going to be getting versus what we are pretty sure we're getting now. There are other benefits financially that we probably weren't expecting in the beginning that we know we might be getting now because we're reclassed and we might get more state aid or whatever the case is. The transportation situation has been very disappointing. But that's not the only issue that's at stake here. And I think that we need to look at the entire picture and not just say, well, you know, we did Princeton plan for finance. That's not why we did Princeton plan. Right? That was one of the reasons we did Princeton plan, but that's not why I think most of us, those of us who were here that voted for it, that was not the only reason. It might not have even been the primary reason, especially as we started to learn more about how our finances were shaking out. At first, it was, my God, we're losing so much money, we have to do something. But then as we started to learn more, and Joe and Enrique started to lobby a little bit more and get us more funding, and cessation funds came through, and all these other things came through, finance was not as big an issue as it was originally. So by the time we voted for it, it was not as much about the finance. Right, so I just, I want to make sure that we have the success metrics that give us the entire picture, and we're talking about that and not just finance.
And so to your point, what you're saying, Corey, so I think to the public and what we were presented with the SWOT, the majority of the things were actually based on finance. And that's why we had if you go back to the February 19th, 2020 board meeting, the reason we even got into this conversation at all was because of finance. Our iceberg was melting. That's why this happened. So while I don't think the public realizes that it really is more than just money. I mean, that's how it was presented to the community, honestly.
That's not how I voted, right? And I completely sympathize with how people might have perceived that, because our house was burning financially, right? It was. That was one of the things that we could do to help that. But when I was voting for the Princeton plan, the other board members, because I was on the fence about it, the other board members that approached me about why I should vote for the Princeton plan did not make a financial case. They made the case about diversity and equity, about opportunities to have more programs in the future, to not have to cut programs. That's why I ended up voting for it.
And now we're here where we have kids that are not, they can't, like I said earlier, they can't really be together. They're not blending. Our 4th and 5th graders aren't even mixing at lunch together. Like this is where your success metrics that you're asking for.
They should be measured
Like
somehow.
I found a list of, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too long, but I did find a list because I was very involved in this work. I found a list of 24 concerns that actually Janine and Rebecca are here that we as a team came up with of concerns. We reshared them. Literally not acknowledged. So like, while it is like it sounds idyllic and it sounds wonderful. But like, you cannot say that Francie Lindsay didn't have diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of that mixed into it, and a lot of programming, and that the PTAs weren't working together. That argument was never really made publicly.
So I know we talked about it. I know we talked about it. I didn't go back and listen to all the meetings. I can tell you that this was a big topic for us. And it was, in the end, it was about those opportunities that I would want to see in the success metrics. So when you talk about students that maybe are not having a good experience, that should be measured somehow, right? Whether it's parent surveys, student surveys, teacher input, whatever the case is.
And that's what you've been saying forever, and we're now in November, and we haven't done any of it, and
Well,
that's where
but
we're, that's
it's
where we're
part of
here.
our plan, right?
It's been part of our plan, but we're not.
So we don't have them, but there is a plan of them. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt to meet that deadline that we established. And if it doesn't happen then, or we don't get the success metrics, then let's have this discussion again. Right? But, you know, I don't want to go back and rehash why it was done, because that's not, you know, we need to figure out where we are today and where we need to be in the future. Right? And I don't want to focus on the past or who said what or why it was done. That's why I'm not going back and reviewing all our old board meetings, because I care about where we are now and whether this is working and where we're going in the future.
Yeah.
So I'll use that as a perfect segue. I don't need to rehash where we were. I lived this today. I can share with you and I can keep you here till tomorrow. I'll spare all of you that. I will say that I would implore the board to have a very public conversation, because when this was happening, publicly, there was very little conversation about anything but money. The pillar that this was standing on was a financial pillar. I did the math from last meeting and this meeting. As a result of this choice, we have spent, based on state aid, either $250,000 or $130,000 more dollars than we would have spent if we didn't do this. So there is zero savings. There is a net expense as a result. I've shared all the numbers that I used publicly. I've taken them all from our documents, and I would quite challenge anyone who would like to discuss them with me. I'm more than happy to talk about how I got there. I wrote a recap that I shared with you. I don't know if you disseminated it or
Did you
not.
share it with Enrique? Because, you know, when Enrique presents to us, he's going to present the metrics on the finances.
Yeah, I'll
Right?
share
And
it.
And if yours don't sync up with his, I'm going to trust him.
I don't blame you.
Not that I don't trust you.
I
right?
didn't see,
But
I didn't
Enrique,
see it.
Okay, so I'll share my map with the board. It's a recap from last week's call, which I revising those numbers now. So last week during the meeting, I indicated, based on what was shared, that we were probably either saving a total of 90 or spending 30, and the variation of 120K is based on an unknown number on state aid based on busing.
so let's, so
No, no, no.
again, if you share it with
I will,
Enrique, right, and we reconcile.
But wait, hold on.
that
I let
the
you finish.
numbers-
Just give me 2 minutes.
Okay,
Right? With all due respect, I'm not going to rehash all of it. I'm just sharing.
I just thought we were going around the table and. that
Well,
the
we
others
went to
haven't had a chance to speak yet.
We're gonna get there.
I just didn't finish it.
Okay.
I just picked up. It went Alexis.
We zigzagged.
No, it was that, and then.
Go ahead, just go.
Everyone's
Yep, everyone gets a chance.
The 2 ladies on either side of me went.
Didn't you go?
No, sir. This is my first opportunity
I
to speak.
apologize. I thought it was Erica, you.
No, I didn't get a chance.
Okay,
I was being
apologize.
patient. So my math has us at spending 250 or spending 130 based on that $120,000 delta for the busing on the state aid. I don't think we should have the conversation now. I think we should have the conversation, and I think we should give people the opportunity to share the experiences. Because I also don't know that I think what it exactly looked like before is the model we should go after either. I think that there are definitely improvements that could be made. And if and when the group decides that this should be a public conversation, then I will go ahead and share my points. I don't think it's fair to belabor all of them now and then do it again. But I definitely support a public conversation about what we would arrange our elementary schools to look like in the future.
Now it's Alex.
Is there anything else you have to hear, Mike?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So the question was, what more information do we need? I do support, I think we need to have a conversation. I want to know what costs have been avoided. So we have not fully realized all of we decided to keep class sizes smaller. We decided to have more TAs. But if we went
back to the way it was, I think we need to look at those costs too, of what costs have been avoided by being in the Princeton plan this year. I want to look at the educational experience. And so like Corey's talking about all these metrics, we need to dive deep. We need to talk to parents, teachers, students, staff, administrators, and understand the student and the educational experience to make sure that that's not being ignored. And the last thing I wanted to point out is through the strategic plan process, we've realized that our stakeholders want to have shared decision making. We heard that loud and clear. It's one of our 4 pillars moving forward. So anything we do moving forward, it's not just the 7 of us. We really need to tap into the community. We've got feedback that we had not done that well beforehand. And so if we're gonna pivot and make any changes, I want to make sure that we are fully embracing and hearing from the entire community before we make any changes.
I'm just gonna say that we put in a lot of time, but I think it's a big responsibility being up here. We are elected and we are elected by this community to serve them. So I'm gonna speak that I think that the parents deserve a forum where they could speak to their experience. Because I don't have an elementary school child. And I've said it before, being in education, a lot of things look good on paper until you live it. So I think we definitely owe the parents a forum where they can come in here and they could speak to their experience. And I'm going to say that I'm a little disheartened that you mentioned equity because I was at a Princeton Plan forum where Joe specifically said it was not about equity when someone asked. He said it was about savings, that we had no issues with equity in this district. So now that you're saying that behind the scenes that it was talked about like this, that's not how it was presented to the public. So I would like to see a forum going forward.
I think the equity piece, there's reports that show that we are an equitable school district. So I think it's perception of equity that comes into play, right? I was an FGL parent for the last however many years, and I had no idea that my neighbors, 2 miles down the road were having a different experience than me, right? I didn't know that. So I think on paper it wasn't equity. There's a whole study because it was about finances, but the way that different community members, I guess, felt and their own experience played into that, if I had to try to put words to this.
And I have no idea what BB was like or Furnace Woods. I would like to hear from those parents.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems like everybody so far that has spoken has said that they want to have some sort of forum with parents and the community. It's something that we can do officially, if that's what the board would like to do.
Can I just
Yeah.
make one comment on it?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that whatever we do encourages people to speak in a safe way. Okay, because I think there are a lot of parents, and this is what I heard when the Princeton Plan was being discussed. There were a lot of parents that did not want to speak in public because they were worried that there was a large group of parents that were extremely vocal that they did not want to confront, right? So how do we create a safe space for those people to give feedback without fear of reprisal from the community?
Yeah, so I think that when I wasn't part of the board, but when we went through this, we were able to not participate in the public forum. Our emails didn't have to be read because it was COVID, we couldn't actually speak. I think that there can be communication that doesn't have to be you come up and speak at a mic, right? Like you can send a note, you can have a one-on-one phone call. I would speak to anybody, you would speak to anybody. We can definitely make it so that nobody, I mean, some people just don't like public speaking, right? So we want people to be able to participate at whatever level they want to give feedback.
Right. We also need to we can't rush this process. So I know we've got the budget calendar
budget season literally right ahead of us, but we can't rush through and make a hasty decision, because that solves no, that may unintended consequences and more problems down the road. So as much as there's a time pressure because we're feeling we need to make budget decisions, we can't make a fast decision and mess with our kids anymore, right? So I want to be really careful about moving too fast and not making thoughtful decisions.
In that sense, I don't think the budget is an issue. When there was discussions between Princeton's plan and Stain, I did 2 budgets. So in that sense, you need to be comfortable on the timing, when do you think, but I don't want you to make a decision because of budget. Because budget, I can present 2 budgets like I did, I think, 2 years ago and 3 years ago. So don't.
Yeah, but you did it to a 3 community schools to a Princeton. Like, who knows if that's what we would go back to? Like, the thing is, we haven't heard if those are the other options. Maybe those are not like, that's what I'm.
But that's my point even more.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I agree with you. I don't know what the right
It took us
answer
so
is.
long. It took us, the cost analysis study was done in 2018. We had 5 options. We whittled it down to 2. It took us years to get to this
A
point.
lot of that data, right? If there was all these analysis done, I mean, I've never seen it, right? Maybe there's an opportunity to look at it and say that, okay, so this option isn't so gravy after all. What are other options that we should be looking at? Right? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't part of the board then.
Yeah, some of the options were.
But
were
again,
not
they-
Financially.
Yes.
They're all financial.
But look, right?
Well, no,
It's
no, no,
not.
but-
So maybe it's worth considering.
The whole study was based on finance.
Well, but,
Right.
The
well,
whole thing was finance.
It wasn't
But
how
I'm saying if
that was the original.
The
Yeah.
study, the 5 that you guys worked off of.
here's the issue. When this was all done, we were, like, again, I was very big part of this on the back end, doing work for this board. We were only allowed to discuss 2 options. That's it. We were told, nope, can't talk about that, can't talk about that. It wasn't about what was best for students. It was about the board whittled these 2 down because it was about money. So we couldn't talk about, redistricting or a 5, doing a K2, K2, 3, 5, or we weren't even closing a building that was decided we couldn't do that because of population. We couldn't even discuss it. We were told that's not going to save enough money. It has to be this way or it has to be this way. And we kind of were left there. I think what we need to make very clear here to the community is that we're not talking about just changing it back. That's not what this conversation is about.
I don't think anybody would support.
No, that's not what we're talking about here. I think it's more of it, and this goes back to Corey's point of we need success metrics. We need this information. We've been saying this for months, so we can see what we're actually measuring to know if this is working. I think we do have to have more conversations, especially with the public, and open it up to the public, to see what is and isn't working for them. Like, we have to hear all sides of this, right? So, I mean, we're doing one of the biggest things, one of the biggest misses in the originally here was a postcard. We never sent any postcard out. We never did any of that. We're doing it for strategic plan because I think we learned from that what we need to do, right? To communicate better with the community. We're setting out for the strategic plan. Maybe we send out something for this. So we're making sure that we're getting to as many people as possible. But because I think it is important and this should not be rushed. The last thing we did was kind of rushed. Not gonna lie. I felt like that entire process was extremely rushed, behind closed doors in a basement and then virtually. So we really do have to be mindful that we are reaching the larger community population. But I think opening conversations, especially to get the real finances, is a start. And then if we can get the success metrics and start working towards that. But I just want to be clear that this isn't like, oh, we're here today and then now next we're going to vote and it's going to change. This is going to be, if we have a conversation, it's going to be thoughtful and include as many people as possible.
So maybe there really is no change for next year. It's something that we plan and figure out what the right change is. I'm just like, we should think about this as a long-term solution rather than a short-term switch. Or to do these steps.
Well, and a new piece of data that we'll hear in 2 weeks, and the board received the report last week, is our 10-year enrollment projection. What the future enrollment in our district looks like, and how that may change the game. The cost analysis that was done in 2018 had a projection. That projection is
We're lower.
is
I looked at it,
Yeah,
we're lower
yeah,
than what they projected.
we have fewer kids than what they projected, and we're expected to have another, I think, 11.6% reduction. So in 10 years from now, we're going to be a district of about 1,900 kids. Part of the discussion Erica was mentioning was about school closures, was exactly that the enrollment projection made at that time the board nervous, and I remember Enrique and I talking about it, because once you close a school, that's a pretty final decision. And you don't get state aid on it, but you got to keep the lights on, all of those things. And at that time, whether it was information or timing or who, we could all watch the meeting. It's out there on YouTube. No one at that time wanted to touch a school closure, for a lot of reasons. That may need to be on the table. I mean, after the conversation or data that's presented in 2 weeks, based on what we've heard, what we've experienced, what the next 10 years look like, having some financial information today that we didn't have 5 years ago, it might be time for a different analysis with new information. That's, a discussion for us to have, but I think in 2 weeks, when the demographer, the person who did the demographic study, shares, what we're looking at and why, and what solutions are the other districts have used, it's usually, you've got two choices. You reorganize or you close schools, and that may be on the table. I mean, who would have 10 years ago we were a district of 2,600 kids. We're going to be 1,900 in 10 years.
So I'm in a district that closed a school. We didn't give it up. The central office moved there and BOCES rented it out the other half.
Oh, there are options.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
so I mean,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not gonna give it up because you could need it again.
Yeah. No, what we had discussed at that time was the cost.
Right.
You can't just mothball it. You got to keep the lights on. Maybe you could get
You
some
can get
revenue
some
out of
money
Sure,
on it.
Sure.
But can we maybe schedule a community forum?
Yeah, can that be like separate from the 30th? Like, you know what I mean? Like a board meeting, can it be, how does that have to?
You just do an open, you do, what do we call it on our budget?
Hearings, well,
A hearing, a public hearing, you're
It's just
doing.
gonna need to be like,
So what Corey said, I think people should be able to email in case they don't feel comfortable.
And how would that work? Because we would want all the board members to be able to come to
Yeah.
that. And like the third,
no, everyone has to. be
right,
on.
yeah,
It would be
okay.
an official.
So
it has to
the-
be-
But just about that,
Just about that.
right?
So we'd have to have an ad.
Okay.
Okay,
Give people the 3 minutes.
Unless,
Like,
unless you guys really wanted to put it on a scheduled date, I'm just thinking, there's always so much on our. agenda.
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, a couple things. We're working with some other school districts and survey companies going to, I don't know if we said it, Corey, kids survey, teacher survey, parent survey, some of those metrics. Obviously, we have academic metrics, financial, education. That won't be difficult. What we will bring to you in December is, here's what we can measure. What do you like or not like, or what else do you want to measure or not measure, right? What other information is out there for us to be collecting to make some decisions about whether this is working or not. If you want to do a forum on, we made this policy change and tell us about it, I don't know if you want to have it be show up or send an email, or if you want some sort of survey instrument for that.
So can I just say that I don't want to be in a position where I have to pick and choose the metrics. I want you to sell your students.
Oh,
Right?
no,
I'd sell it to you, you're the experts, you tell us what metrics we should be looking at to make a decision as to whether or not we should continue with the grade banding, right? If you're all supporting it, tell us why you're supporting it and make the case to us that we could all be convinced that this is the right way to continue going. That's what I want. I don't want to be picking and choosing the metric.
And that doesn't mean that, I meant, here's what we can measure.
Okay.
We know what we can measure financially, we know what we can measure academically, it's the experience, right?
Yeah.
We've done a survey now 2 years in a row, and the reason we've done the same survey with the strategic plans is to see growth over time. We have some of that information from last year, but it was about the strategic plan. We have it about this year, it's about the strategic plan. There are some questions that we can pull from or add that will give us that experiential, give us the experience of kids, staff, and parents. That's what we're working on. The academic stuff, I hate to say, we test kids all the time. We have assessments. We, collect. Are you coming to school? If you come, are you behaving and are you doing well? It's the experiential stuff.
Could we maybe have a forum on December 7th? I mean, do all of that and then like a meeting like this, but on December 7th? Like you guys did where people emailed and Carmen read the emails where they didn't want to talk. One paragraph, Carmen, 5 sentences.
I can volunteer to help Carmen. But the 7th, is that a specific?
I'm just saying, we have a Board of Ed meeting on the 14th. And we have on November 30th, a Board of Ed meeting.
Do we want to do this before the metrics or after the metrics?
Yeah, I think it's
kinda-
part of it because when I went, I know we didn't feel that, but I went back and I was reviewing some of the things that were discussed, and one of the large mixed in with academic and finance and all these metrics was hosting parent forums and student feedback and all of those things. So I almost think it doesn't matter. It's like one of the metrics.
Yeah.
Right? So before or after, it's like, as long as we get it all around the same time, it'll probably be helpful either way.
Yeah, I wonder if parents, the people who provide feedback would have more valuable feedback, understanding the full picture of why the Princeton plan would be beneficial or not beneficial for them.
For them, I think it's their experience.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
experience, not right. If you think about it, though, we're still only 3 months into it.
I think there's a lot of people though, like me, that are gonna go, what do you mean? I thought this was about money, right? So if we want people to evaluate from that perspective, they need to know that perspective exists.
Right. Right, so I kind of feel like you want to give them the information first before we have it done. Like, give them some of that background, let them absorb that, let them come up with the questions they want to ask, and then understand we're only 3 months into this. We knew it was gonna be rocky in the beginning.
Did we?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't either. You said it was gonna
Any
be
big
easy.
project that you take on like this is always.
Well, we asked them a million
It's
times.
all-
what's it gonna be?
I think there's a lot of experience and conversation that you guys had that wasn't here. And I think that maybe you convinced one another to take positions and perspectives that you didn't share publicly when you made the decision. Because
No.
when you
That's
got,
not, that's,
No,
so you're accusing the former board of not being in the spirit of the open meeting law?
no, you're allowed to talk two people at a time, right? 2 and 3 people can talk and they do regularly. But Corey said that he had board members that shared with him about the equity. There was no board meeting that I recall being part of, and I watched them all then, that discussed equity. So I'm not accusing you of making an open meeting law violation, and I would remind you that 3 people talking is not a violation of open meeting law.
No, but when you're trying to convince somebody of, persuade their argument and change their.
In a group of 3, I
No,
don't
we're
think,
not really supposed to do that either.
but,
Honestly, not supposed to do that.
but then I don't know when you had the conversation that you were swayed by former board members to have an equity component to your vote, because that wasn't public. So no, I wasn't accusing you of that, but I don't recall ever hearing a board meeting that you discussed equity as your justification for the decision. It was a $2 million vote.
I'm
So
not,
we-
I really don't want to.
No,
go
no,
back
no.
and rehash the past, right? Because.
But
it's-
that
I'm
was a
telling
pretty
you
deep
I'm telling you
accusation.
why I voted for it. I don't have to share that, but I am sharing. let's just figure out where we are now, and where we need to go.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what we need to focus on. I'm not 100% sold on Princeton plan, right? I think there are a lot of problems with it. I need them to resell this to me, right? To say, do we continue with this? The status quo is probably not going to work, so we need to figure out, do we fix what we have? Do we move to a different, or do we say, you know, we need to give it more time to figure out if it's really working or not? I don't know. I don't know yet. I need them to tell me.
So the metrics we would have though are today versus last year, right? I can tell you today, our average class size is within 2 kids of the average class size. Last year, I couldn't tell you that. I could tell you that if we compare our staffing today, go back, I can tell you that if we remain status quo last year and didn't make an adjustment, we would have added staff. I can tell you we would have added twice as many staff that we've had if we wanted to have the status quo last year at today's class size. So
I don't think anyone's saying status quo though. We all have just said that we're not doing.
I'm going back to the metrics though, right? Because that's
apples to apples and what the cost, right? There's an opportunity cost that we're not
But that's not gonna
accounting
be part
for.
of our metrics, comparing staff
It would
from
be.
last year to this year.
Yeah, it would all be part of it, but we can't miss out on the opportunity cost portion that Joe's talking about.
I don't know how, we already know the staff part, right? We already know we eliminated staff for this plan. That's not a
Well,
metric.
We just alternated because we hired a lot of TAs.
We just shifted
We just
expenses
shifted expenses. We hired a lot of TAs.
and the
Also,
busing.
I'm just.
We let
Everyone's shot like done at this point.
Yeah.
We shifted expenses.
Yeah,
It's part of it. It's just
Let's
part of
look
the
at
bigger
present
conversation.
metrics Before we start.
well, I
talking
wanna
about
know,
it.
what does the group feel? The group wanna wait till after December?
I'm down to have a public conversation about it and start right away.
Or what, whatever.
I'm thinking that you're gonna need more than one conversation. I think that having a public conversation just it's out there about the cost. I don't even know if anyone's even gonna show up.
Oh, they'll show up. Make no bones about it.
But
They'll show up.
they didn't show up to budget meetings, so.
This is different. This is very different. People will show up.
I think you're gonna have more than one forum. I would like one
Yeah.
sooner rather than later, the first one, and a time frame. You know, here's an hour forum. We're doing more than one.
Maybe keep it to specific topics that aren't focused on the metrics that we're gonna get. Like maybe we talk about the transportation experience
Well,
in the
they-
first one, because
they
that's
talk.
real now, right?
Yeah. So we can't like tell them what they can talk about. They'll
Well,
they'll talk
If we have a
about their
meeting
experience.
to talk about a specific topic. Right? Transportation.
No, I think a
part of
public
this-
forum is, what, you're saying, say, this forum is for transportation?
This forum
I think
is
people
to
need to
talk
be able
about.
to come and talk about whatever they
Their
want to talk
experience,
about. And hopefully, maybe, if they come and talk about it, when we talk about metrics, they'll follow along and they'll get the solve. I don't know.
And we might actually get some metrics from them that are good, that we had know nothing about.
Maybe.
I'm not in elementary school, so I don't know. I don't have a kid there. I don't know.
So everyone want to think on it and then let me know.
What
if
was
you
the
wanna
option?
Do it before
A forum or a conversation?
a public forum. Not really a conversation, it's a one-way feedback stream. Right?
I think so, Peter. I think we're gonna have more than
Multiple.
one. So
An hour long.
Do
Come
we-
talk to us.
Do we try to fit one in from now until then and then have another one later? I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
We still need
First,
numbers.
and
We
then-
still need numbers and information. We don't have it. That's part of it.
I just think we start the conversation, start it lightly. Here's an hour of our time.
And this will live stream this.
Yeah.
So people at
Record
home
it to people.
can
It's
maybe
gotta-
even go to the first one.
Well, it's gotta be a board meeting. It's gonna be
Special board meeting.
yeah.
But have it start and end time.
It's only gonna be public comments, right?
Yeah.
But I think we should say that the public comment is related to this topic because
Oh, yeah.
people can talk about
If
any
somebody
topic
wants
they
to
want.
talk, like, okay, I'm making this up. Bean Doe lives next door and she loves Princeton Plan because she loves these awesome new teachers that she didn't have in her building beforehand, but she really hates transportation. Jane doesn't want to come to multiple forums. She wants to just come and tell you what she loves and what she hates all at one time. Right?
I think we might be pleasantly surprised with what we
Why
get.
can't we just open it to just Princeton plan?
That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
that's what it is.
Just Princeton plan experiences both
All
like
positive, all
surprises
of it.
and negatives, things we need to work on or develop or change. And things that have maybe experiences that surprised you and you like a new teacher you never had, or met new
Or a
friends,
building.
or like your new principal, like things you like being in a class with more diverse people. I don't like.
Yeah, maybe focus on like experience to date. What I don't
Yeah.
want it to be is a discussion, of people talking about, hypotheticals or the future or things that they think are gonna be problems. Tell us about what the problems are now or what your great successes are now. Like, what do you love about what's going on? What do you not love about what's going on? But base it on fact and experience rather than, I'm really just concerned that people will come and bend. And
You
not.
only get 3 minutes.
You get 3 minutes. We'll be.
And then the clock,
3
where's the
minutes.
clock? You have the clock?
I think Carmen has.
I'm kidding. I'm not carding anybody.
Well, if you're only giving an hour,
Yeah.
you really need to be tight on the
That's
3
20
minutes,
people.
because that's not a lot of people.
Okay.
So 3 minutes in an hour is
Or
20
2
people.
hours,
That's
I don't know.
only if you just have them meet their 3 minutes and that's no time for swapping.
I don't
And
think you're gonna get
people-
many people.
I think you're gonna get.
You're gonna get a
I
lot.
think you're gonna get a lot.
You
of-
do,
Yeah,
on both sides of the fence.
We'll find out.
we don't know. It depends on who's willing to come. I think you're gonna get, if you really do a good job with solicitation beforehand and ask people to provide feedback, privately, right, confidentially, I think you'll get much more high quality feedback.
Can we incorporate folks who would like to send in
Letters?
letters?
Yeah.
And maybe give an opportunity for people to send them like confidential, without revealing, like maybe go directly to Carmen and Carmen, blocks out. all the information.
The comments that we have to read.
And they don't have to put their name
I
on
don't
it.
think
And they don't have.
they-
our
they-
regular in the
They
email.
need
They don't really read out loud.
She's not gonna read the name. You should
Right.
put your name on it, but they can say,
All right, so
you don't
we
read my
can-
name.
I think the email should only be read if someone asks
Right, right,
to
right.
have it. Otherwise, we should just be able to read an email. It doesn't,
Yes.
right? It doesn't matter. Someone should be able to
I'm
weigh
thinking that
in.
There's sometimes people who can't come that want their
Yeah.
email read, right? So anyway, I think the next step is figuring out when we are available. So we can pick a date and then get the date out.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. We might have to give up our December 1st. So we'll figure that out.
So at the next board meeting or a date we decide sooner?
Yeah, we'll start to find out everyone's availability and then pick a date that works for
Okay.
everyone. I'm sure we're not gonna have many options. Not like this group.
Maybe we'll go to
And
midnight
holidays
next
and-
time. Let's break a
Okay.
record. Let's break a record and go to midnight for that one.
Okay, anything else? Is everyone ready for bed?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Don't move.
Second, third, fourth, all in favor?
Aye.